We are now live, Councilman.
Thank you. I understand that the state law currently requires that the following announcement be made at the beginning of every remote public hearing as follows. Due to the current public health emergency, City Council committees are currently meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft Teams to make these remote hearings possible. Instructions for how the public may view and offer public testimony at public hearings of council committees are included in the public hearing notice that are published in the Daily News, Inquirer, and Legal Intelligencer prior to the hearings and can also be found on phillycouncil.com. It has now come to the hour. We are now starting our committee and hearing on commerce and economic development. Mr. McMonagh, will you please read the call of the roll and take attendance? Each member say if you're present and say a few words so your image will be displayed on the screen. Mr. McMonagh?
Good afternoon, everyone. Councilwoman Brooks?
Present.
Councilman Dom?
Good afternoon, Chairman Squilla, and present.
Councilman Green?
I am present. Thank you all.
Councilman Johnson? Councilman Jones? Councilman O?
Yes, good afternoon. I am present.
Councilmember Squilla?
Present.
And Councilwoman Parker?
Present.
Thank you. A quorum of the committee is present and the hearing is now called to order. This is a public hearing of the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development regarding resolution number 200665. Mr. McMonagh, will you please read the title of the resolution?
Point of clarification.
Councilmember
Mr. Chair?
Richardson?
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and colleagues. I'm present for the record.
For the record, note Councilmember Gilmore Richardson is present for the hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sorry about that, Councilwoman.
Mr. McMonagh, please read the title of the resolution.
Resolution number 200665, a resolution authorizing the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development to hold hearings on the state of Philadelphia's neighborhood commercial corridors.
Thank you. Before we begin the hearing, testimony from the witnesses we have for today. Everyone who has been invited to the meeting to testify should be aware that this public hearing is being recorded. Because the hearing is public, participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. By continuing to be in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. Additionally, prior to recognizing members for questions or comments they have for witnesses, I will note for the record, at this time, we will use the chat feature available on Microsoft Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized in order to comply with the Sunshine Act. The chat feature must only be used for this purpose. Mr. McMonagh, will you please call the first panel of the witnesses? We have to testify this afternoon on resolution number 200665.
Good afternoon. The first panel will consist of Karen Fagley from the Philadelphia Department of Commerce, Ann Nevins from PIDC, and Beth McConnell from the Philadelphia Association of Community Development Corporations.
Thank you. Before you start in that order, I would just ask that you state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony. And we'll try to hold all questions until all three are done, if that's okay. And unless we see something in the chat that's of urgent or a note to be given. So if you want to start, just state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Chairman Squilla, if I may make some very brief comments before the panel begins its testimony.
Madam Leader, absolutely. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To Chairman Squilla and Vice Chairman Dom and all of the staff, I want to say a special thank you to each of you for your work in facilitating this hearing today. And again, want to say a special thank you to each of you scheduled to testify. It was a hearing before ours on a very, very important issue relative to mental health and law enforcement as we reimagine policing in our city. So I just want to thank you for your patience. I want to be as brief as I can because I myself, along with our colleagues, to hear from the experts and practitioners on this issue. But I do just want to state for the record that commercial quarters in the city of Philadelphia have been near and dear to my heart long before I was elected to public office. In fact, it was during my tenure as the Director of Community and Economic Development for my predecessor and mentor, Councilwoman Marion Tasco, that I worked with a firm called Brown and Keener Urban Design, and we developed the first plan for the improvement of commercial corridors throughout the 9th Councilmatic District. And I'm not even going to tell you how long ago that was, but it was a very, very long time ago. Since I have become the council person, I have been advocating for commercial corridors in a variety of ways. For example, some of you may remember the debate regarding the beverage tax in 2016, and I bristled listening to many conversations that painted most of my constituents as just consumers. I knew then, as I know now, that many of my constituents are not just consumers, but they are also entrepreneurs and they are small business owners. And it was with that spirit in mind that I advocated for funding to create a program that we all know now as Power Up Your Business in partnership with the Community College of Philadelphia. Power Up Your Business is a free neighborhood-based approach to support small business owners in Philadelphia. And to date, they have helped hundreds of small business owners grow their revenue and create jobs. In 2017 and 2018, I was jumping up and down about the need for commercial corridor managers throughout our region because we lacked bids throughout the 9th Councilmatic District, and I wanted to get this done via public-private partnership. And in fact, we were able to get it done via that public-private partnership and revitalize the Vernon Road commercial corridor. Then during the 2019 budget process, that was FY20, we advocated very strongly for an additional $2 million for the Commerce Department so that they could increase their cleaning on commercial corridors. That was the year in 2019 that we piloted a commercial corridor cleaning program in the 9th District, and we used best practices that we've learned from that program about what would work. Working with Commerce and working with PIDC, we created PHL Taking Care of Business, otherwise known as PHL TCB. It's a citywide commercial corridor cleaning program that has an initial amount of funding of $10 million, about half of which will be spent this year. And in early 2020, we had conversations with Beth McConnell, who from PACDC's, and she's been, a part of our commercial corridor and economic development Bible and regarding commercial corridors. And so we want to say thank you to Beth in particular. We discussed the need of having a hearing on the state of our city's commercial corridors. And at that time, our hope was to have a mostly positive hearing focused on the disparities between our commercial corridors across the city and the needs for them. And then obviously we all know what happened. COVID-19, this virus, it destroyed the world the way we knew it. So with that being said, the purpose of today's hearing is to hear about the current state of commercial corridors and their immediate needs right now, in particular as we head into the winter. The plan is for us to have more hearings under this same resolution, future hearings throughout 2021 and beyond that will be focused more on recovery and what recovery could and should look like. But today we want to listen to you. We want you to share your struggles, frustrations, that's okay. But we also want some of your testimony. We hope that it will be solution oriented, meaning I hope that you all will offer some potential solutions or best practices that you're seeing in other cities. I know I saw Alex on from Tacony. I've always relied on him checking out best practices across the nation. So I want to again thank you, Mr. Chairman Squilla, and Vice Chairman Adam, and all members of the committee for allowing me these comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Leader. Appreciate that. And also, I want to note for the record, Councilmember Dom, Vice Chair, if he could lead the questioning at this point, as I do have to just scoot away for a couple minutes, but I will be right back. Thank you, Mr. We could start with your testimony. Please state your name for the record and begin with your testimony.
Okay. I think I'm up, right?
Yes, Sarah, you're fine.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon, members of the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development. My name is Karen Fegley, and I'm the Deputy Commerce Director of the Office of Neighborhood Services. Thank you for having me here today. I do want to take a quick minute to recognize Michael Rashid, the newly named Director of Commerce. He is joining the hearing today. I know he is a strong ally on this topic, but he's handed me the reins for providing testimony on Resolution 200665 to discuss the state of Philadelphia's commercial corridors. So I want to start off, my testimony starts off, I want to set the stage a little bit about what we're talking about, what we mean when we say commercial corridors. The Planning Commission identifies approximately 300 commercial corridors in the city of Philadelphia. But when commerce, we support all businesses throughout the city, but when we speak of our commercial corridor programs, there are approximately 80 that we target for support and investment. These 80 are corridors that are neighborhood-based, pedestrian and transit-oriented, and have a high density of commercial spaces. Probably an average of like 100 businesses in a 3 to 4 block area. That's typically what we're looking at. In these corridors, the businesses tend to be very small, mom and pop retailers, restaurants, convenience stores, and personal services, professional services. Because of a relatively low barrier to entry, there is a lot of diversity among the business owners, with a significant Asian American ownership on most corridors. Vacancy rates had been ranging from 10 to 25%, but it is hard to get a count currently due to temporary shutdowns from COVID and from the civil unrest. In addition to competition from big box stores and online shopping, other challenges that our corridors face include absentee property owners, nuisance businesses, overall deferred investment in the public infrastructure and in the private real estate. Yet, as a city of neighborhoods, our commercial corridors remain a vital factor in providing jobs, goods, and services, and they're a place for neighbors to come together as a community. So at Commerce, our corridor strategies are threefold. First, we provide support to the businesses through our business services managers, through grant programs like In-Store and the Storefront Improvement Program, and through referrals to our partners that provide technical assistance, training, and lending, such as the Power Up program that Councilwoman Parker mentioned, as well as Finanta, SCORE, the Enterprise Center, PIDC, etc. We also started a Biz Coach program where we, in Commerce, match individual minority-owned businesses up with an assessment on one-on-one help to position them to be able to apply for a grant or a loan. Second, we look to provide support to community-based organizations. We rely on these CDCs and other associations to be our boots on the ground. We currently provide funding to 48 organizations through our corridor management program, CDC tax credit program, and or the CDC economic development support grants. For targeted corridors that don't have a caretaker, our business service managers perform that role, and we work to build local capacity so that we in the future, we'll have a partner to relay information and supports to its businesses. The third leg of the stool is we invest in the public environment. We support business improvement districts, and we manage the $7 million PHL TCB Clean Corridors program. We also provide funding and design for storefront improvements, and we manage streetscape and other capital investments like bus shelters, big belly trash receptacles, police cameras, anything to make the neighborhood safe and clean and attractive. This year, as you know, we've taken on additional efforts related to COVID relief, most of which have been geared towards neighborhood and corridor businesses. The detail is written in the testimony, so I'll just name them off. We've supported the PA statewide small business relief program run by the PA CDFI network. We launched our own small business relief fund in partnership with PIDC. We partner with the Merchants Fund for the Restore and Reopen grants after the earlier civil unrest this summer. And we partner with the North Broad Renaissance on a Reopen with Care social media campaign and distribution of 10,000 PPE kits. And of course, we provided service and answers directly by our staff to many, many, many businesses. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak about commercial corridor revitalization efforts today. And moreover, really look forward to hearing from my colleagues and partners who I'm sure will speak to the challenges, but also some creative solutions to support local businesses, jobs, and strong communities. I am happy to take any questions. I also just want to mention I have a few of my colleagues here to help answer questions if needed. I believe Dennis Murphy and Nazara Sabri are also here from Commerce. So thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And let's go to the next panel. Next person. I think it's Ann Nevins.
Thank you, Vice Chairperson Dom, and good afternoon to the members of the committee. My name is Ann Bovaird Nevins, and I am president of PIDC. I want to thank all of you for having me here today. As the resolution calling for this hearing that was introduced by Councilmember Parker has noted, small businesses play a huge role in Philadelphia's economy as generators of income, employment, and wealth for our citizens. In particular, the small businesses that make up Philadelphia's neighborhood commercial corridors contribute to the diversity and the vitality of our communities while providing access to critical goods and services for our residents. This access is particularly important in many Philadelphia neighborhoods where our residents primarily rely on walking, public transit, or ride shares to get around. Having these small businesses where they can get their essentials, located in close proximity to their homes, can be a huge help. That's especially true now here in the recovery, when saving money is even more essential and finding time to travel distances for shopping while looking after school-aged children or other loved ones at home can be truly challenging. For these businesses and the people in their communities who depend on them, the impact of the coronavirus pandemic, compounded by the damage and closures resulting from the civil unrest in the summer and fall, was sudden, severe, and truly overwhelming. That is why PIDC is fully and strongly aligned with City Council's previous call for Philadelphia's safe, equitable, and robust economic recovery from the coronavirus pandemic. And we agree that thoughtful investments in the resilience, growth, and success of the businesses on our neighborhood commercial corridors will be critical to achieving this goal in 2021 and beyond. As I've outlined in my prior testimony before City Council in August and September of this year, PIDC is approaching our COVID-19 economic recovery strategies through a lens of our vision for a Philadelphia economy that is growing, that is diversified, and that is inclusive in order to support continuous improvement in the quality of life for all those who live and work in our city. We worked in partnership with our close colleagues at the Commerce Department, including Karen and the many members of her team, and also our partners at Philadelphia Works to outline a 4-phase approach to an equitable economic recovery around respond, restart, recharge, and reimagine. Throughout the course of 2020, we've been primarily focused on those first 2 phases of respond and restart, and notably some of the programs that Karen mentioned in her testimony, with particularly a focus on supporting small businesses with access to capital and business support services. My written testimony provides some highlights and additional details on those respond and restart efforts to date, but I wanted to also adjust my remarks here in response to the request from Councilmember Parker's office earlier today to really focus on what we're seeing on the ground right now and what the immediate needs are for our small businesses as we head into the winter. So I would say that first and foremost, there is simply a need for more grant dollars and economic stimulus to help the businesses who have been hit the hardest by the mandated closures to keep up with their obligations, stay in business, and hopefully keep people connected to their employment. We know already that even with the $225 million commitment from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, plus the $30 million from the city, and I know that that was done with the particular support of City Council, as well as, of course, the Commerce Department, that were, dedicated for small businesses. We know that the need and the demand for those types of funds far exceeds the currently available resources. We are working in close partnership with the city, as well as our CDFI CDFI partners, our community development financial institution partners, to advocate at the federal level for additional resources for small businesses, such as what we have seen through the statewide Small Business Assistance Grant Program funded through the CARES Act, as well as for important reforms to the Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP, assuming that that will reopen at some point. And we think it's really important to speak with a unified voice to make sure that any new stimulus funds really get to the businesses that need them the most, including those that are located on our neighborhood commercial corridors. I would also say that we learned a tremendous amount this year about what entrepreneurs and businesses did need to do and what they will need to do in the future in order to be eligible to apply for these types of funds. It's not enough to make the funding available. We have to ensure that the businesses who most need the funds are in a position to be successful in accessing them. We know that even regardless of the relief fund type of opportunities that have come about this year, even going well beyond that, there is a significant unmet need for affordable, high-quality professional services, particularly in accounting and back office administration. And the chambers, the CDFIs, the corridor managers, Karen, and the Biz Coach program that she mentioned, they can and do provide some of this support. But I think it's also clear that the one-on-one professional services are really critical, and figuring out how we can deliver that at scale, I think, is an important challenge and opportunity for Philadelphia. And then finally, another area that I think is really urgent, and particularly as we head into the winter, is that we focus not just on the financial health of our entrepreneurs, but also on their mental health and well-being. My colleague Marla Hamilton, who probably many of you know and leads client engagement for PIDC, has worked in partnership with the mental health experts at the Scattergood Foundation to develop a 6-part series specifically for entrepreneurs focused on mental health and the impacts of the pandemic and the impacts of the crisis around systemic racism and civil unrest and all of what we have experienced this year. That series started in October and is going through March. And that, of course, is just one small thing. But I think that the idea of focusing on not just the financial well-being, but the mental health aspect is important. So just in recap, the 3 main things that I see right now would be advocating with one powerful voice for more resources and better targeting to ensure that they get where they are most needed, ensuring that businesses are as prepared as possible to apply for those resources as soon as they are available, and finally, supporting our entrepreneurs with attention to their mental health and well-being in addition to their financial and business capacity. Thanks very much, and I also look forward to answering any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ann Nevins. Thank you very much. Let's go to our next panelist. I think it's Beth McConnell.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Dom and other members of council. My name is Beth McConnell. I'm the Policy Director at the Philadelphia Association of CDCs. And thank you, Councilmember Parker, for bringing us together here today. I convene PACDC's Commercial Corridor Working Group, which is a monthly gathering of about 25 to 30 staff at CDCs, BIDs, and other supporting groups that are dedicated to making our neighborhood commercial centers vibrant, safe, clean, and attractive places to shop local, access services close to home, and connect with their community. I want to refer you to our website, our commercial corridor page on our website, where you can find an interactive map of neighborhood commercial corridors and the contact information for the organizations that manage them. I do want to say that PACDC has really enjoyed a very strong, productive, and communicative partnership with the Department of Commerce, with whom we meet weekly, along with our colleagues at Philadelphia LISC, to coordinate our work supporting corridor managing groups and small businesses and ensure that we're responding to the needs on the ground. You're going to hear from some PACDC members and some of the business owners that they serve later in this hearing about the actual challenges they're facing. So I'm going to jump straight to 3 recommendations for council and the Kenney administration to consider. First, if council does approve the development impact tax tomorrow, which PACDC strongly supports, we urge you to dedicate at least 25% of those funds to our commercial corridors. Those are funds that could be used for acquisition of commercial properties to boost local ownership, particularly among entrepreneurs of color. Those are funds that we could also use to make physical improvements on our corridors, such as rehabilitation of stores, new construction, improvements in the public space, as well as direct support to small businesses. Second, the pandemic laid bare the consequence of lacking a citywide data strategy around our corridors. Unfortunately, we don't have data, very good data at the city level on business closings or openings, languages spoken by business owners, their contact information, who's accessed what programs or got turned down for other programs. And this makes it really difficult to understand what's happening on the ground, how we must respond, and how to measure our impact. Thanks to support from Commerce, JP Morgan Chase, and other funders, PACDC began piloting a data collection tool before the pandemic that's now being tested on 4 corridors with the help of consulting firm North Fourth LLC. But a lot more needs to be done to ensure that Commerce and the corridor managing organizations have the resources and tools to gather, share, analyze, and use data. Finally, we want to encourage that Council make much more significant investments in the staff capacity at our corridor managing organizations. You're going to hear from them today. These folks have to be organizers, marketers, event planners, fundraisers, construction project managers, cleaning program overseers, and now crisis responders, among many other things. I dare say they're underpaid. They also have minimal back office support. Thanks again to Commerce and our funders at JP Morgan Chase and Comcast, PACDC will launch a pilot onboarding training program in January for brand new corridor managers to help give them a strong start as they take on this complex and demanding job. And we have another program we'll launch early in the new year aimed at more experienced corridor managers. But the funding runs out after our first pilot. And so we really do want to encourage Council and the administration to look at deeper support for staff salaries, training, and capacity building in the FY22 budget. I want to wrap up by thanking Council and the Kenny administration for your continued support of the corridor management that CDCs and BIDs and other organizations engage in every day. These neighborhood corridors are the economic arteries of Philadelphia. These are the places where aspiring entrepreneurs took a chance on themselves by serving their communities, despite the overwhelming competition from online shopping and big box stores. They won't survive this crisis that we're in without significant support from you, from Harrisburg, and from Washington. So we thank you for giving them the attention that they deserve today. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Beth, and thank you to everyone. I just had a few quick comments. I know that our majority leader has a comment. I just first wanted to actually congratulate Michael Rashid on his appointment as our Commerce Director, and I wish him well. And we really need a good, strong Commerce Director right now, that's for sure. So good luck to you, Michael. And then I wanted to also mention, I guess I had a question for you, Karen. You mentioned 300 corridors, I believe, neighborhood corridors, and you're focused on, I think, 80 of them. Mm-hmm. I was wondering, the other 220, do they not need our focus? Are they healthy?
So the 300, when, like I said, we follow Planning Commission's lead. That's every commercial area in the city. So it actually includes downtown. It includes Delaware Avenue. It includes, Roosevelt Boulevard. Some of the bigger sort of mall type shops, as well as some really small kind of like corner intersection. A few businesses on the corner. So again, like every business needs help. But these are the corridors that are sort of that primary, the ones we are focusing on. The 80 are more like the main streets of Philadelphia,
Okay. Got it. And so I just want to ask, I guess, Karen and Ann and Beth also, from my information, what I've seen is that the employment numbers for example, insurance people, for construction people, for finance, law, they're pretty much the same as last year. They haven't missed a beat. They're pretty much doing what they did last year. Some are even doing better. And some in the technology world are even doing better in 20 than they did in 19. But the area that I see that is hit hardest is in the hospitality area, which is hotels, indoor fitness centers, some of the salons, restaurants for sure. And, I bring that up because I think the employment numbers in restaurants right now, before this latest closure, are between 25 and 30% off, and hotels are 50% off. I mean, it's devastating. And Majority Leader Parker, we're talking about neighborhoods, and we've talked about this, and I think we both agree that these restaurants are like the anchors in these neighborhoods. They are the key to keep alive. And some of these people in our neighborhoods, they've worked 30, 40 years of their lives, okay, putting in their sweat equity, some are passed down from generations. And because of a pandemic that is out of their control, they are suffering terribly. They may not make it. And some of this is brought on also because of some of the closures that we've instituted too. So in that light, my question is, and I know money is limited, but can the Commerce Department come up with some sort of ideas and programs to help those that are most affected with small grants? But I'll give you an example. A restaurant at 52nd and Market, or one up in Germantown or Erie, or any of those locations that can't afford to put an outdoor tent or can't afford a heater, okay, we should have grants to help them because we're forcing them to do that. Our policies are forcing that, and we can't let them go down. So I'm just like to see a program. I'll give you that challenge. I know money's limited, but I look at it this way, and I also will say to Michael Rashid, we need a strong voice for the small, medium, every size business in the city going forward. It's so important to have these jobs. These jobs are what our economy is all about. I know Majority Leader Parker is 100% in agreement with me on this, and this is just so crucial to Philadelphia. Look, the good news is we can see the horizon. It's probably 3, 6, or 9 months away where that light is. We're starting to see that light in the tunnel. We didn't see it 6 months ago. The vaccine's on the horizon. We just have to make sure these companies get there. And so with that, I want to turn to Majority Leader Sherelle Parker.
Thank you, Vice Chair Dom. I want to start where you ended. You will remember, Vice Chair Dom, we were in the midst of conversation. I don't know if it was the transfer ordinance, but when both you and I had the opportunity to speak, we both noted publicly on the record that by far the Commerce Department in the city of Philadelphia is the most important department to helping Philadelphia's economy recover from this pandemic and the suffering. And as I listened to your testimony, Karen, Ann, and Beth, I don't know if you all talked before, but it was like you were just dancing with everything that you just stated. PIDC, and you from the public-private partnership perspective, Karen, you from inside the Commerce Department trying to make more with a whole lot less. And Beth on the ground with our local business owners. Is with that being said that, Karen, I want you to address what we heard and acknowledge what Vice Chair Dom, myself, and I'm sure all members of the committee, our concerns regarding that backroom technical support. The small business who needs the accountant, who needs the lawyer, but doesn't interact with one regularly enough or can't afford to have one under retainer. How do you now attempt to provide that kind of technical and backroom support when you note, okay, yeah, 300, but 220 are not sort of considered our main street quarters, but in that 80, all of them aren't created equal as it relates to that technical assistance. Mm-hmm. So I think, and Vice Chair Dom, I want this information on the record because we just can't expect people to get this job done when there are no people there to do the job. So tell us about how the Commerce Department as a department helps businesses.
Thank you, Councilman. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think the main way we do it, I mean, it for better or worse, it takes a lot of legwork. It's a lot of human capital because as has been referenced here, it requires a lot of one-on-one assistance to really help a business owner. Their business is that's their baby, that's their life, and they go into a workshop or a class, we all know is great for sort of exposure, but when it comes to really taking it back and building your business, you often need some real coaching, right? Especially businesses that may not have had the opportunities all along the way, and they threw this, threw everything together. So So we were very fortunate in that we were able to use our CDBG dollars to continue to fund and actually even expand our funding a little bit for our business technical assistance program this year. We are steering our providers as much as possible towards doing one-on-one, but honestly, it's not nearly enough. There's not nearly enough dollars for them to do that on a big, broad scale. We're continuing our Biz Coach program, and again, most of our partners are looking into doing more of that. But our own team has, took a big hit this year, as the whole city budget had to, and it's been difficult. One, it's harder for us to work with and support our partners and make sure they're kind of lined up and matched up with each other and with the business community. And we have less of our own staff. Our business services team, is down a couple of people, and it's just less people to answer the phone, less people to get out on the streets, because we're back out on the streets. We're back out trying to, masked up, but trying to help businesses. It's less people, and it is really human capital intensive work. I'm sorry, you're muted, Councilwoman.
Muted.
Let me follow up with this one. Of the 80 Main Street like corridors that you mentioned, how many of them would you say have corridor managers? And Beth, you please chime in here too. And I'm happy to hear about that pilot that was funded. And tell us approximately how much does a corridor manager own? How much do they earn, rather? Their salaries.
Karen, do you want to start? And I'll pick up.
Yeah, I'll second what Beth had said. They don't earn enough. Our organizations pay corridor managers anywhere from, I've seen $32,000 up to maybe in the 50s. And it is a hard job. We are expecting them to be an expert in numerous different activities, plus send us really good quarterly reports. I would say of the 80 corridors, and I could look this up, I don't know, I want to say maybe half are represented by people who are actually paid to do the job. There's another bunch that, have a volunteer, maybe a business leader or a community person that just is really dedicated. And then there's a bunch that our staff is doing the work on. As you know, because in the 9th, that's the issue in a lot of places like Vernon Road, where our business services managers are doing.
Beth, you want to follow up there?
That's about what I'd say. I think we have about 40 that we've counted, roughly 40 that have some form of management, whether it's CDC tax credit program or targeted corridor management program, or they're a bid, or they have other private philanthropic resources to have some form of staff on the ground in those places.
So with all due respect, would you also say that those neighborhoods that are fortunate enough to have a bid, most of those areas have corridor managers, would you say?
Well, I'm sorry, Beth. The bids have the bid director
has that responsibility.
And that is a secure budget and tends to be a much larger budget than our CDCs that are doing where we're funding the corridor managers.
So I would argue for the benefit of the public, and I know our colleagues are paying attention. Vice Chair and Council Member Dom, this is where we again talk about sort of the haves and the have-nots, the disparity in the organization, even the physical and aesthetic appeal. I won't say where, but it's a neighborhood close to me, and I had one of my constituents call me on the phone and said, I don't understand why when I drive up this main corridor, it looks like I'm driving into a Christmas story. That's how beautiful the decorations, the public decorations are in that region. But how come, Sherelle, when, I drive through Rising Sun Avenue or Oxford Avenue or Ogons Avenue or Old York Road, why can't we look like them? Aren't we as important as they are? You talking about a puzzled look? Because I was tongue-tied, Vice Chair Dom. I didn't know how to respond except to say the kind of organization and structure that is required in order to get that done. It calls for it to be someone's job. Karen and Beth, would you both agree?
Absolutely.
1,000%.
And I want to end my questioning with you. I was in I was on mute, but I was shaking my head as you were testifying because I was in the amen corner when you talked about one speaking with a unified voice. You know, I was very proud of this council and even working in partnership with the mayor when we were appealing to our federal delegation and our state delegations for funding. When the pandemic first began, we had intergovernmental sort of cooperative planning calls, and we made sure we had everybody on the call at the same time. When we wrote letters, we made sure we were writing letters and speaking with the same voice. So, Ann, I want you, if you will, because people don't get this, and you got to explain this. Some members of the public said the federal government gave cities and states all of this money. And, you know, I don't understand why we're in such, you know, dire fiscal straits, because there was this paycheck protection program. And if the feds, you know, rescued us, you know, why haven't we used the money? And what's your response?
Well, I would first, just commend this council and the partnership with the administration and the partnership with the state officials as well in terms of the advocacy around the use of the Federal CARES Act funding, particularly that statewide small business assistance program. I just saw that my colleague from West Philadelphia Financial Services, Jim Burnett, just joined. And, I think he would agree with me in saying that the collaboration between the on-the-ground partners of the CDFIs with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania was really only possible because of that unified voice and that unified advocacy, coming from bodies like this council as in partnership with the state. So that is hugely impactful. That program, which I think is really a national model of how to get money out in the hands of the businesses that need it the most, it would not have happened, without that. So first, just wanted to, say thank you. And then in terms of the, the overall, federal stimulus, again, I think, we see it in every instance where there has been a stimulus since the beginning of the pandemic. The need has wildly outstripped the the available resources. I just got an email because I was asking for this info from one of my colleagues, and statewide in the CARES Act funded program, we had 62,000 applications and more than $1 billion in requests for that funding. And I remember I mentioned that was $225 million relative to over $1 billion in requests. And that was just the requests that came in over the summer, and we're still getting the money out based on those requests. That's not even taking into account the more recent increase in the cases and the resulting shutdowns that have happened this fall. So I think just that need has continued to far outstrip what has been made available so far in terms of resources. But I will say that, with the statewide funding, a lot of the small businesses in Pennsylvania, at least, have fared better maybe than even in some other places where the CARES Act funds, weren't used through that type of a channel, leveraging the local CDFI partners on the ground. And so hopefully we can do more of that together going forward.
Thank you, Ann. So again, just for the benefit of the public who's watching, because, they don't do this every day like we do. This is our world and our work. And so we stood up the program, Commerce Department, working with PIDC, and the first appropriation that came from this council before there was a paycheck protection program in existence. You guys worked together in a partnership and stood up a program. Then you referenced the value of the CDFIs. When we realized we didn't get the flexibility that we needed, and that those entities who support small businesses that are not connected to some in the mainstream. This council, again, in the unified voice with the administration, wrote a letter to the federal government saying, listen, CDFIs also need to be a part of this program. They're valuable. So tell me, if you will, and State Senator Vincent Hughes did a yeoman's job. I'm talking about he and his entire team quarterbacking and championing that $225 million. It was unprecedented. I worked there for 10 years. Believe me, it was unheard of. It had never happened before. So thank him. But Ann, if there's anybody from the federal government that's listening right now, when you talked about reforms to the Paycheck Protection, if a new package is delivered tomorrow, what would those reforms look like?
I would say that there needs to be, number one, more funding set aside to go out through the CDFIs and or minority-owned depository institutions. So that was something that happened really late in the PPP program in the earlier iteration. They eventually kind of put that in place, but it wasn't as big, and it was really too late for a lot of the CDFIs to be able to actually stand up what needs to happen to get the money out the door. So for example, PIDC actually made a loan to Women's Opportunities Resource Center so that they could make PPP loans because they were approved to do it. We weren't approved to do it, but making a loan to them to allow them to have the capital that they needed to make those loans at a small scale, even in the few thousands of dollars. And the larger commercial banks really were not going to be making PPP loans at a scale of $5,000 for an individual business. That was not really the way that the program was set up to work, particularly with the larger banks. We need everybody at the table. I don't mean
Right.
For that to come across as critical. We need everybody participating and everybody working together to get this capital out as quickly and efficiently and equitably as possible. And I think especially with the equity piece of that, making sure that a set aside for that capital comes through CDFIs and minority depository institutions would be a specific step that could be taken.
Vice Chair Dom led Council's recent effort to ensure that we had a unified voice relative to the working, on the current package that we keep hearing in a bipartisan manner. We think is being worked on now in D.C. And I want to say a special thank you to you, Vice Chair Dom, for your leadership. I want to conclude my questioning, Beth, with your comments. I recently spoke with our new Commerce Director, Director Rashid, and the issues that you just talked about were part of the nucleus of that conversation. We were talking about equity. We were talking about access to opportunity, particularly for Black and Brown and minority-owned businesses. And you said something, Beth. I know that we started a pilot. It may not be at the level that we want it to be at, but this idea of acquisition of commercial properties, PIDC Commerce, Karen, I hear Yvonne Boyd in my brain, right now saying these business owners need capital so that they're not renting. If you find out what they're paying in rent, they should be able to own the building for what they're. Talk to us, Beth, about that. Why did you think that focusing on acquisition, local ownership, and then you talked about those physical improvements, particularly now, if I have to build out, I think COVID one day is going to go away. We'll have a vaccine. It'll be readily available. But I want to be honest with you. I think this is a part of our new normal. I think some people may have even found a sweet spot and decided that they like a structure, right, that allows them different vehicles to deliver the goods that they sell to the public. But so what if I wanted to refit my building and make some improvements? You talked about all of those things, and Beth, you also talked about data collection and how we needed to strengthen that. Can you just talk about those 3 points for us?
Yeah, and I want to applaud. I know PIDC and Commerce have both invested some resources in property acquisition for small business owners. It's just not enough, right? I mean, the resources are limited and we need more. We also need strategic acquisition tools that both are private and public, right? So we need to be using the land bank to do some acquisition on our neighborhood corridors, which they're not quite set up to do and don't have the resources to do, in addition to the private acquisition. And we need ownership both of small businesses, but also of some CDCs as well that are committed in the long haul to the corridor. And so if they own property on the corridor, then again, we can increase that kind of local investment and commitment and thoughtfulness to the retail mix on the corridor too. And I know, Councilwoman, you and I have spoken in the past, and this is separate from COVID, but just about investment in our small businesses in our neighborhoods, about the idea of like a basic systems repair program for small businesses, right? The leaky plumbing, the sagging floor, the busted roof, right? Investing in those spaces and making them attractive and clean and safe places to be and do business are ways that we can help those businesses stabilize and thrive and grow and attract more shoppers back to the corridors. On the data piece, and we have been working with Commerce on this to try to make some headway before COVID, and it just became important over COVID. You know, when things shut down and our corridor managers were left to try to reach their business owners and figure out what was going on and connect them to all the various resources. One of the biggest challenges we had is we just didn't have their cell phone numbers. We couldn't reach them. We didn't have their email. You know, we may or may not have had their email addresses. They may not speak English. And so in the past, you could walk into the store and, you know, figure out a way to communicate face to face. That doesn't work over text message or over the telephone. So we didn't necessarily have kind of the language resources in place and lots of other things. And at this very moment, we can't tell you, as Karen testified to, which businesses are open, which businesses are temporarily closed, permanently closed. We gathered some data Commerce did over the summer on the property damage as a result of the civil unrest, but keeping that data up to date about what's happened has been a challenge. Now, what we do have are excellent organizations on the ground in all of these places that can be conduits for gathering this information, that can also be layered in with other data sources, but it's all in, we have 40 different organizations managing 40 different quarters, so it's in 40 plus, probably 80 different brains. So to be able to get it in kind of a place where Commerce can access it and council can access it, and others to be able to look macro wide, what's happening and what do we need to do and track what's happening. We're just starting to figure out how to do that. It's a big investment of time, energy, and resources, but it's eminently doable, I think, with the support of all of the folks here today.
Thank you for your testimony. And Vice Chair Dom, thank you for your latitude. I want to say to the three of you that we are going to keep pressing in this body. It's been a commitment of ours, and not just one voice, but council as a unit. In addition to that, we're going to hear from them soon. I want to give a huge shout out to them while you guys are still here, and that is for the Chamber of Commerce. Will Carter, their entire team, their neighborhood growth project, many of the issues that we've heard from you, and some I know we're going to hear from the individual business owners today, have been a part of conversations with the chamber, and they have made it their focus as well. And they are our partners here today in organizing this hearing and putting all of this together. So you all know me. I want to give credit where credit is due. It's important to thank the people who do the work. So thank you to each of you for your testimony.
Thank you, Majority Leader. And before I recognize Councilman Green, I just have a quick comment. I hope the next round of funding, whether it's from the city, I know we have an appropriations that we're working on, or from the state or federal government, focuses on those businesses that need it the most. Because the last round of PPP went to a lot of firms, without mentioning any companies or industries, that really didn't need the money. They were concerned at the time, we understand that, but some of them are having better years in 2020 than they did in 2019. But like the neighborhood corridor retail establishments, the restaurants, they're getting crushed. Hotels, they're getting crushed. Like gyms, they need like most of this money. I don't think there's anyone else that really needs it. And I just hope that we focus on that. Secondly, I just want to mention, Karen, to you, if you think the Commerce Department, and you work with Michael Rashid on this, needs more funding, okay? to do their job, I think we'd like to know about it, and I'll tell you why. This is such an important part of our economy and our city. And, it's an investment that pays off in a big way. Jobs for people and making sure they stay in business, we need to do that. And I'm going to also add one more piece on that, and that is how I feel about this, and I think my colleagues do too. We need to really appreciate every small, medium, and large business in the city. Thank God they're in the city of Philadelphia. They have choices, and they could go elsewhere, but we need to really appreciate them in our thinking and everything we do in government. Anyway, thank you, Majority Leader Parker. I'd like to recognize Council Member Derek Green.
Thank you, Vice Chair Dom. I want to thank Councilmember Parker for her work as Majority Leader and also for addressing these issues in reference to our neighborhood corridors. Ann and Karen, it seems like we're on a Zoom or a Skype call almost every other day regarding a topic related to these issues. So I want to thank you as well as Ms. McConnell for being champions for our neighborhood retail establishments that are on our commercial corridors throughout our entire city. I'm going to raise a question that kind of dovetails off of Council Member Dom and Majority Leader Parker in reference to the upcoming budget cycle, making sure that the dollars that are allocated, both through our general fund, because we know, and I've stated this several times, how the administration, how the Commerce Department really did not get the support it needed and should have received through this budget process, and using CDBG CARES dollars for your staffing is not adequate. And this pandemic has been a health emergency, but it's also been an economic crisis. And so we need to make sure that our small businesses, especially on our commercial corridors, again, the support they need. I hope that you are working with other partners, especially at the state level. If we do receive money out of this new round of CARES discussion that's occurring, based on the current proposal, the bipartisan proposal is about $160 billion that have been at this point identified, but as you know, legislation changes quite a bit to states, cities, and tribal governments. Hopefully, we'll be able to get not only a direct allotment through a funding formula for the city of Philadelphia, but also the dollars that come to the Commonwealth. We also advocate for getting some of those dollars. So the fact that you're working together, working with CDFIs, hopefully we're coming up with a plan for that. But quickly, I want to talk about employee ownership opportunities, or ESOPs. We've talked about that in the past. One of the challenges, and I've had hearings on this issue in the past, but one of the challenges for a lot of our retail businesses is that the head of that business, she or he may be retiring. We all know there's a silver tsunami. They may be, in their seasoned age, as my father would say, and their children may not be interested in running that business because they've seen the challenges. And that is a big portion of our retail businesses that may also own the business. But if they want to transfer that business to their key employees, it's challenging to do that because a lot of the value and the assets of that business is in the real estate of that business that helps run that business. So I guess my question is, has there been any thought about trying to provide resources or assistance? I know Kevin McPhillips from the PA CEO Network, who I've worked with over the years, they're doing some initiatives in Pittsburgh where they've worked with their chamber, legislative branch, and others to help provide some resources to help ESOPs. Has there been any conversations or thoughts from the perspective of here locally, how can we help these business owners who want to maintain the business and transfer to a key employee that's running the business to keep that retail business on our commercial corridor? Because my concern is it's going to be exasperated by this pandemic, that a person that started a business, they're not going to be able to maintain their business or want to retire, especially the pandemic has made that even more prevalent, but they don't have the ability to do evaluation of transferring that business to a key employee. And so then what happens is that business just closes. And also those employees now lost a job. So Has there been any conversation regarding ESOPs as well to try to help some of these businesses stay on our commercial corridors, especially coming out of this pandemic?
Thanks, Councilman. That is an issue we've been talking about, the need for succession planning, as well as the potential benefits of, employee-owned opportunities. Through your support, we've been working closely with PACA, Philadelphia Association of Cooperative Alliance. Did I get those letters right? And so, right, there's a lot of different kinds of co-ops, but we've been focusing on this opportunity, this idea of succession planning for sort of our corridor, our small retail businesses. I do know that there's challenges, that the financing is challenging because it's a unique structure. I know these are things we're looking into. We were working part of a national effort to support this, so we were trying to copy best practices. I don't know sort of the latest, if there's any like actual product that's been developed. But yeah, it's part of our game plan. I don't know if Ann or Beth, if you have anything to add on that.
Just over the years, we've ensured that our corridor managers have gotten trainings on the various different employee ownership models and the value of it, so that when they're on the ground talking to business owners who are thinking about succession planning, they can plant those seeds and refer them to the right technical expertise. I don't know that that's led to any transitions or successions yet, but that's work that should continue and be ongoing.
I think the only thing I would add is one of the areas that we're trying to, build out, and this, maybe through partnerships rather than something that PIDC might do directly, but I think we still need to kind of figure out the details, is this need for additional equity-like capital or some type of patient debt capital that's unlike the loans that we or our fellow CDFIs or the banks can typically make today, and so I think that that model in terms of employee ownership and what the financing would need to look like for that transition to take place is probably pretty similar in a lot of ways to other types of business acquisition financing that we're coming across in terms of needs, and particularly focusing on needs of Black-owned businesses and how do we do more to support the growth and wealth building. Part of that could potentially come through acquisition, but we need to figure out what are the right capital tools and structures that we don't really have in place here, and how do we develop those and then bring them to scale.
Okay. What I'll do is I will follow up with Kevin McPhillips from PA CEO. They were actually moving forward even through the pandemic over the summer for some initiatives in Pittsburgh and Allegheny County. And hopefully, considering there may be, knock on wood, some resources coming at the federal level, if they can get that done, we can see if there's some opportunities to model some of the things that they're doing, and if we can tap into some of the dollars that may come to the city of Philadelphia or come to the Commonwealth, use it as an opportunity as we go into the next calendar year and our new budget year, FY22. Thank you, Vice Chair Dom.
Thank you, Councilmember Green. And are there any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Seeing none, I'd like to ask Mr. McMahon to call the next panel. Thank you very much, by the way, for your testimony. Thank you all for your testimony. Thank you.
All right, we are going to have to jump around a little bit. Can we please have Stephanie Michael, Rob Wonderling, Steve Bradley, Nick Shinoy, and Jennifer Rodriguez all lined up to testify?
Okay, thank you. Let's start with our first. Is that Stephanie Michael?
Stephanie Michelle, yes. Good afternoon.
Stephanie?
Sure, absolutely. Stephanie Michelle.
Feel free to proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Council. Hello, my name is Stephanie Michelle, and I'm the Executive Director of the North 5th Street Revitalization Project. I'm here to testify on Resolution 200665. My organization manages the North 5th Street corridor in Alany. Our commercial corridor radiates from its center at 5th and Alany, south to 5th and the Roosevelt Boulevard, and north up to 5th and Godfrey, covering a 1.5 mile stretch with over 360 active small businesses. North Fifth Street is a vibrant pedestrian and public transit friendly shopping area serving the diverse Alany community. We're so thankful to have the awesome Councilwoman Parker as our councilperson as she consistently advocates and supports our work on North Fifth. With its own distinctive assets and sense of identity, every commercial corridor is different, and that is one of the many beauties of doing community and economic development work in a city of neighborhoods. The work and the impact of CDCs across the city has helped to establish Philadelphia's position as an attractive city to live in. I mean, who doesn't want to live around the corner from a delicious Colombian bakery? CDCs and corridor managing organizations provide community-based revitalization initiatives that support small businesses and inspire community pride. We support businesses by taking on a variety of roles to meet their needs. We serve as the connector, counselor, and caretaker for that business. We connect small mom and pop shops to resources to improve their business operations and to the community through promotional efforts. We counsel through technical assistance and offering advice on funding, incentives, and other economic and financial instruments to assist new and established businesses, as well as create a welcoming community that drives local economy. Lastly, we care about the business by forming relationships and getting to know those owners behind the shop. The biggest asset in connecting, counseling, and caretaking is communication. Prior to the pandemic, outreach, visibility, and door-to-door canvassing was the largest tool in a corridor manager's tool belt. With in-person contact at a standstill, providing our services and resources to low to moderate corridors with many business owners who don't have access to internet or understand Zoom was a struggle. Corridor managers got creative in their efforts and did their best to support their small businesses while staying safe. Their efforts were met with many challenges, including language barriers, digital access, and capacity to meet the demand with a short turnaround time. 2020 has been a year of pause, reflect, assess, and change. The change stage is most exciting and hopeful. This is an opportunity to revisit the system. In order to prevent further divide amongst businesses in less affluent communities with limited technology access, I would like to present the proposal of funding for tangible resources such as Chromebooks, hotspots, and other resources to connect our businesses, as well as training for business owners to be digitally connected. Providing our small businesses with the resources they need to stay connected with us as corridor managers and their customers. I know also that the administration is leaning into participatory budgeting, so I would also recommend using that as a part of recovery process. This will be a great avenue for CDCs to give the people in the communities that they serve the tangible power over the budget and to apply funding to economic programs. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. We're going to hold the questions till everyone has their chance to testify. So thank you very much. Let's go to Rob Wonderling.
Well, thank you, Vice Chair, Councilman Dom. Just do a sound check. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, perfect.
Very good. And to Leader Parker and Chair School and other members of City Council, again, my name is Rob Wonderling, and I served as the President and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce for Greater Philadelphia. Due to the nature of this hearing and the fact that this resolution and the leadership of Councilwoman Parker, as this is the first of several, I'm going to be very brief in summary of my prepared written statement. And as what was stated earlier and with the instructions this morning, depart briefly to focus on the short-term actions that the business community in partnership with this government and this council can take over the next several weeks and months. But I do want to really thank this committee and Leader Parker and others for the focus on commercial corridors. In a recent analysis of the current budget that is under operation with the city of Philadelphia, I believe it was by the Center City District, less than 1% of the total public outlay is committed towards the growth of jobs, intergenerational wealth creation, and a real commitment to neighborhood free enterprise, small and micro businesses. I'm not going to detail the list that have us ranked near the bottom of ease of doing business, the cost of doing business, et cetera. That's all been well documented, and most recently a series of articles by the Philadelphia Inquirer. But I do want to bracket for a moment the partnership that we forged with the council president, the mayor, and members of this body on our public-private partnership, the Philadelphia Recharge and Recovery Initiative. This is the economic recovery plan that I think, as Councilwoman Parker suggested, we're going to get to once we get through this very difficult period as we fight the insidious virus. But in particular, I want to highlight two platforms. One is underway in which, through a partnership with Graduate Philadelphia and Philadelphia Works and Accenture, we are now organizing the business community, employer community to reskill and hire approximately 5,000 individuals over the next several months that have been dislocated from their jobs as a result of the pandemic. And Vice Chair Dom, you mentioned the hospitality sector. That's a sector we'll be targeting and retraining in health IT and IT services. Second, in a meeting we kicked off yesterday, we are benefiting from the services of EY Consulting to build a scalable platform that will encourage a broader swath of our business community to purchase goods and services from minority, neighborhood-based small businesses and enterprises. And the key here is scalable, where we all know that our large anchor institutions have sophisticated procurement systems and are making public commitments to support increased purchasing of Black and brown enterprises. But if we really want to create a density of Black and brown entrepreneurship in our neighborhoods and along our commercial corridors, then we need to have a broader group of businesses figure out how to do that, and to do so as quickly and easily as possible. We hope to roll out that platform in early February of next year. So aggressively moving in that direction, and hope to present that at a future hearing. Now to the request this morning. I think that by working together, we should focus on the following. One, it's been mentioned by you, Councilman Dom and Councilman Green and Councilwoman Parker and others, that the time is now for us to leverage the federal stimulus dollars. To the moment, there are about $12 billion right now currently agreed to and negotiated in the various administration, House, and Senate packages in Washington, $12 billion to go to CDFIs, and with a reset around need, around the have-nots, as Councilwoman Parker just suggested. We were pleased yesterday, Councilman Don, to join you in a mirror letter that we sent through to the delegation along with City Council. But I wouldn't stop there. There's going to be at least 3 more bites at the federal apple, and I believe that now, and quite frankly, we haven't done this in well over 3 decades, an opportunity for the private sector and the city government to go to Washington with the same asks as it relates to what is necessary to spark free enterprise in our commercial corridors, whether it's ESOPs or maintenance programs that were just mentioned by Beth a moment ago. So that's number one. Number two, and we've been working on this really since last spring, but now I think it's increasingly critical that the city government be as friendly as possible to the reopening and the restarting of small businesses in our commercial corridors, and specifically as it relates to the deployment of in-place and mobile testing for COVID-19, as well as distribution points for vaccines. This infrastructure of contact tracing, vaccine distribution, and continued COVID-19 testing, in our view, in our commercial corridors is as important as SEPTA and rail and bus services. It's infrastructure that will rebuild public confidence to return to work, to shop, to buy local. And we have to ensure, all of us ensure, that there are not gaps in that. And we don't want to create a situation where that infrastructure is deployed in certain areas that may already have capacity and areas that do not. And I think that's a really, really important point. And the commercial corridors need to be part of those conversations, which are occurring now. I mentioned ease of business doing business a moment ago, but I really do think that there is an opportunity for creative thinking as we move into the first quarter next year and into the spring for city council to press the administration to not just to develop a long-term plan, but to ease and relax immediately the regulatory constraints that will inhibit small businesses in our commercial corridors from opening up enterprises, growing the employment and business opportunities as we move towards a post-pandemic and vaccination phase. And then finally, and I was really struck how Councilman Parker described the partnership with our association, Commercial Corridors. I know we at the Chamber of Commerce of Greater Philadelphia and others would welcome the opportunity to be advocates for a comprehensive, thoughtful plan that includes everything from technology, which we just heard from our practitioner on Fifth Street, to improvements to storefronts, to the kind of capital programs that Ann Nevins outlined, and that we should go bold and we should go big next year in the budget process. And the fact that less than 1% of the current general operations go to creating free enterprise, intergenerational wealth and growth in our neighborhoods, I think is an indictment on all of us. We tend to get caught up in we-they debates on a number of issues. And I guess, and finally, in conclusion, because it's written in my testimony, and I want to state now, I think publicly for the fifth time, we really believe city councils should be adopting a do no harm strategy right now as it relates to free enterprise. We should not be targeting specific industries. We should not be doing anything legislatively or from a regulatory framework that makes it harder to conduct business in the city. And that's why we remain opposed to the proposed 1% construction tax. So again, to the committee, thank you for your leadership and the willingness to allow us to testify today.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you very much. Let's go next to Steve Bradley, the African American Chamber of Commerce.
Great. Well, good afternoon. My name is Stephen Scott Bradley. I'm chair of the African American Chamber of Commerce. And again, it's my privilege to give a testimony regarding the resolution 200665. On behalf of our membership and our board of directors, we work very closely with the Greater Philadelphia Chamber, with the Commerce Department, with the other chambers in the region. And you asked earlier about needs. And again, our members continue to need capital. How can we make these corridors, viable and competitive as resources, grants, low interest loans, advocacy. Again, that's another area. Councilwoman Sherelle Parker stated earlier about the inequity of the corridors. How do we have certain corridors that are decorated and look enticing for the holidays, and then we go a block away and we see the inequity? So that's where we need that advocacy to make sure these corridors reflect the whole city and investments are being made across the board. And then thirdly is one voice. That's important when we hear about the city and the state and the federal government. How do we put our resources together so that everybody's speaking on behalf of the citizens of Philadelphia and the members of the chamber? So again, we just see that these corridors are very vital for our communities, keep our communities vibrant, keep people invested in their property. And we just think it's important that we continue to invest in these corridors and to continue to put resources so that we can be competitive. And the chamber's position is continue to look out for brown and black businesses to make sure this pandemic that we're going through, we start thinking about repivoting and reimagine. And again, building these relationships with the Greater Philadelphia Chamber, being at the table, making sure our community is being thought of and we have input is very crucial. So again, our goal is to continue to be an advocate for our membership and continue to talk about equity when we talk about corridors. And we're just thankful for the opportunity that you council people are addressing these issues and making sure there's equity in these corridors. And we just want to be a part of the solution and part of the rebuilding. So thank you for the opportunity to give a testimony today.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you very much. Let's go to Nick Shinoy from the Asian American Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, sir. My name is Narasimha Shinoy, founder, President and CEO of the Asian American Chamber of Commerce of Greater Philadelphia. I will read a prepared statement. We are a membership nonprofit organization that serves Asian businesses, individual entrepreneurs, and nonprofit organizations for the growth of economy, employment in the Greater Philadelphia area. Focus our resources mainly in the city. Many Asian small businesses in Philadelphia are family-owned and face economic devastation. In addition, businesses were looted, and some of them were looted more than once due to lack of police protection. Some businesses were torched. Many Asian family business owners live in the same building. Fortunately, there were no fatalities. Significant number of them will not be reopening their businesses in the corridors as they are afraid that the city will no longer protect their investment and their lives. Hence, they are increasingly arming themselves to protect their family and business, which is a serious concern. Expenses like rent, utilities, and taxes continue to hurt businesses during this time with the little or no income. Their financial liability is mounting. They need assistance in form of grants and long-term loans to recover. Small businesses rely on government programs and policies. Immigrant and minority businesses make up a significant portion of business in Philadelphia, but are unable to access grants and loans due to lack of banking relations and language barriers. Chamber is concerned that stigma associated with the virus had severe impact during the pandemic and going to slow down the recovery of Asian corridor business. City Council should consider this issue as part of its recovery message and programs. According to the recent study by Pew's Trust, Asians own 18% of city businesses with employees and 10% of non-employee business, which is a significant number and will have a large impact on city economy if most of them do not recover. Some corridors are managed well, others seems to need help. Public education campaign to keep our city clean and safe would help to keep corridors safe and attractive for shopping. Without the strict law enforcement to curtail looters and drug traffickers, corridor recovery effort will become academic. Finally, as a minority chamber, we have limited resources to make any significant impact in this recovery process as we have a large number of businesses in distress. We need to have boots on the ground to communicate with them as they have language issues. More resources need to provide business assistance as Asian businesses are diversified in culture and language. We will work with the business service providers and corridor managers to work together to share our resources to move forward. This concludes my testimony. Thank you, Councilwoman Parker and the committee members to give me this opportunity to testify on behalf of this chamber.
Thank you very much, Nick. Thank you. And let's go to Jennifer Rodriguez from the Hispanic American Chamber of Commerce.
Good afternoon, Council Member, and good afternoon to the Committee of Commerce and Economic Development. I'm Jennifer Rodriguez. I'm the President and CEO of the Greater Philadelphia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting Latino-owned businesses in the Philadelphia region. There are approximately 12,000 Latino-owned businesses in the city of Philadelphia. Of these, nearly 40% are commercial quarter-type enterprises, such as restaurants, hair salons, barbershops, car repair shops, and other retail concentrated around commercial corridors in North Philadelphia and South Philadelphia. These consumer-facing businesses are the most impacted by COVID-19 and are of critical importance to our organization. It should be noted that the recent safer at home restrictions will be catastrophic for many of these businesses, and we are frankly disappointed that key stakeholders, including our chamber, were not consulted in the process of developing these new measures. The diverse chambers of commerce joined in a letter dated November 20th addressed to Mayor Canny and Dr. Farley on this subject, and to date, we have not received a response. In order to weather the pandemic, businesses have cut costs and invested in PPE and other equipment to operate safely. They cannot afford to make additional cuts. To survive over the winter, commercial corridor businesses need to generate revenue. The city could help mitigate losses through additional grant dollars and or support the adoption of e-commerce capability of these businesses. But these efforts will not make up for the loss of revenue due to restrictions. Commercial corridors are not just places where residents shop, but places where families invest their futures and their dreams. These are places where immigrants and the working poor find opportunities to create wealth and a better future for their families. These are also places where neighborhood youth get their first jobs and where residents build community and share culture. To be clear, supporting individual businesses is not the same as supporting commercial corridors. Commercial corridor management is a team sport. Not only do individual businesses need to be supported and receive support, but the group itself needs cohesion, organizing, leadership, and management. When commercial corridors work well, they not only build the wealth for the entrepreneurs, but they also build wealth and improve the quality of life of the larger community. The most successful commercial corridors are clean, attractive, walkable, and safe. They're destinations for residents to celebrate holidays, cultural events, and are places where community traditions are created. Successful corridors have the leadership that helps businesses adapt to changing market conditions through capable planning, business relationship management, and programming. This is where underperforming corridors tend to lag in their ability to adapt. While the city invests millions of dollars annually in corridor support programs and commercial corridor staff, many of the corridors receiving these investments have not improved significantly. Therefore, a question we would like to have addressed is, how does the city assess the needs, determine the goals, allocate the resources, and measure the outcomes of commercial corridor investments? In New York City, for example, the city's Office of Small Business has conducted a commercial district needs assessment for many of its commercial corridors, highlighting the existing business landscape, consumer characteristics, physical environment, and unique character of the commercial corridors and local businesses that make up the identity of each neighborhood. Each of these analyses is completed in partnership with local community-based organizations and includes analysis of storefront and retail mix, door-to-door merchant surveys, consumer and shopper surveys, and in-depth inventory of the street landscape and conditions that affect the shopping experience. These analyses then inform priorities, goals, and investments. The commercial corridors in North Philadelphia and South Philadelphia, where most Latino-owned businesses are concentrated, have improved, but some still lag on fundamentals. North Philadelphia is car-oriented. There is a high concentration of corner stores, and crime and safety are top priorities. Here, the corridors have dedicated managers, but the business density and the retail mix fail to create a walkable shopping destination. South 9th Street, the heart of the Mexican and Central American community, has a strong retail mix and a concentration of restaurants that could make it a regional destination. But it is hampered by deteriorated physical environment and lack of dedicated, funded corridor management. As a result, planning, organizing, and marketing efforts are volunteer-based and sporadic. This fall, in an effort to support the corridor, the Hispanic Chamber created Dine Latino Restaurant Week, which enrolled 22 restaurants, mostly from South Philadelphia. Participating restaurants received technical assistance, marketing support, and were invited to apply for our Small Business Relief Fund grant for micro grants ranging from $500 to $2,000. With adequate funding, GPHCC could do so much more to create a destination and support businesses in this section of South Philadelphia. But ultimately, what we need for each of the city's commercial corridors are specific plans with goals that are measurable, that are used to guide programs and investments. Now that there is this renewed interest, we should not only address the short-term corridor needs, but should definitely invest in long-term solutions. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jennifer. And I think Majority Leader has some questions for this panel.
Thank you, Vice Chair Dom. I want to get to the questions, but first, to you, Rob Wonderling, head of the chamber. Again, want to say a special thank you on the record to the Chamber of Commerce, Will Carter in particular. When Beth and I talked about this hearing, it was pre-COVID. After COVID and going into this this second phase, Will Carter and my team were talking about needing to do this now. The chamber, Rob, and I'm glad you turned your camera back on because I can see you. I can't see you, right, like we would normally be in the council chambers, but as close as I can see you now, Rob, from my eyes to yours. Thank you to the chamber. Thank you to Will Carter, Yvette, Darrell, your entire team, because organizing this hearing today, I mean, particularly, again, we had a delay. This is a lot of work to get to everyone. And your team contacted everyone, structured, organized. So I want to say a special thank you to them, because, you know, when we're fighting, but when we're working together and we're doing it right, we got to say that out loud, too. So thank you for that. Jennifer, thank you so very much for questioning how we as a city drive dollars to neighborhood commercial quarters. And note that when we support one particular business on a quarter, I don't care if we're talking about, it's usually what we would call like big box anchor change. I mean, Stephanie Michelle, she knows we, at any chance we get to try to lure, you know, anchors, we want the anchors to come because we're hoping to build out and fill vacancies around. But the fact of the matter is supporting one business is not the same as investing in an entire quarter. And for you to acknowledge on the record, Jennifer, that the aesthetic appeal, the cleanliness of the quarter, the lighting on the quarter, the banners, the signage, all of those things are a part of investing in neighborhood quarters, because when you do that, you then get entrepreneurs who could potentially be interested in rolling the dice and say, I see a vacancy right there. I'm going to try to take a shot at it. With that being said, I want you all, if you will, to look in the chat box. Please click on that link. Jennifer, take a look at that study and see whether or not this is what you referenced. This is what we did for the 9th Council-matic District, and we know that this is being done in neighborhoods across the city of Philadelphia, but it's a comprehensive study, data-driven and research-based, that comes from business owners about that district in particular. With that being said, I want to put you all on the spot right now. Rob Wonderling, Jennifer, Nick, along with Stephen Bradley and Stephanie Michelle, I'm going to ask you to respond, because what I wanted to know is, do you all think it would be possible, or do you have the capacity to develop some kind of survey that is outside of government? Not that we do, because we need a third party sort of independent, not verifier, but a trust entity here, that this didn't come from government, but with all of our quarters that are organized. So this would be our bids, along with the smaller ones that don't have a quarter manager. Do you all think and listen, I'm not a technical whiz at all. I'm technically really a dinosaur, but I know they use tools like SurveyMonkey and there are other vehicles out there. Would you be able to get something done where those 80 main streets that Karen referenced in her testimony, those quarters, would you be able to get a survey out that we could at least say individual business owners on that quarter? Why does that become important? Because once you get the results, you can rank results by district. We have 10 district council members. So if what they're telling us is We need to feel safe. We need to be brighter and we need to be cleaner. So we need big bellies. Then somebody else, because I'm a fan of big bellies, but somebody's going to say big bellies themselves create blight. Because when people see them, and although they condense trash, they also become dumping sites. So do you understand what I mean there? If you all put together I'm talking about a 5 to 10 question.
Councilwoman Sherrill, there's even, if in actuality, LISC worked with New York to develop the assessment. There's a whole template that already exists that can be implemented in each of these corridors that would help develop the assessment.
Jennifer, let me interject here. I just want to say this to give you guys an overview of what I'm talking about. Because Rob, you talked about making it easier. You talked about sort of less like deregulation, so to speak, right? Because people have said it's onerous, and we have a lot of outdated, antiquated laws, rules governing, how businesses function. I would like to see, and I'm looking at some points, and this comes from my talking with some business improvement district leaders, where they talked about could it be rated by sanitation, safety, zoning, the streets department, how a bid is administered, or how a commercial quarter manager or a Fifth Street CDC like Stephanie, them bulk purchasing. Is there a way that we can find a way to scale on bulk purchasing across the city? They talk about L&I, and then they talk about taxes, and then you all give us the data to tell us what reforms. Because Rob, you know what I would like to do? I would like to introduce a package that comes from the data that you all get from the business owners, and it includes budget investments. I'm talking about in particulars. I don't care if it's new wired cans. I don't care if it's big bellies or banners. But everything should come from that research we get. Is what I just asked for, and Jennifer, maybe you can start, and Rob, is that unreasonable?
Well, I want to offer a friendly amendment. I love the concept, first of all. I think it's a really strong idea. I would also start with the 311 data and the citizen surveys that the administration issued in, I think it was Q1, Q2 of 2019. Much of the same issues that surfaced through that citywide survey that the administration issued are the same for the small businesses and enterprises. And in my second point, my friendly amendment, that we would scope it so that it informs and reprioritizes commercial corridors for the budget negotiations this spring. This is the difference between wants and needs, and I wouldn't want to go through a process where people are asking for things. Let me put it this way: the survey work needs to inform and hopefully result in a better outcome in a final agreed to budget that would support an ongoing commitment to free enterprise and small businesses in the commercial corridors.
Rob, let me say this to you. I agree that we need to use the data that the city has already collected, but I would argue that even though Philadelphians responded, the core folks, we want very specifically the request to come directly from specifically the targeted group providing the information. We specifically want them to be the people who are doing business on the corridor. So no one is telling them who's not making the payroll, who's not getting up to open the store and trying to survive in COVID. Nobody else is telling them what's best for them, but this is very specifically those business owners speaking for themselves. And I see you, Paul Levy, saying take a look at what New York City does with their Department of Small Business Services. And Kevin Williams mentioned that there's a group called Black Squirrel Collective. I don't know about that, Kevin. You'll make us search, but I will want this to be a very specific commercial quarter business, operating business specific, right? So no one can say that we're allowing somebody else to define what's important for this constituency. Jennifer, can you respond?
Yes. I think I think we can really bring a group together to do a survey that's standardized, and we can collaborate with commercial quarter managers. We can collaborate. The chambers can work on it. I think we can organize the effort so it's standard and it's broad, and we can support the Commerce Department in the sense that this would inform the government and allocation. Absolutely, we are more than happy to participate and in an effort like this.
Councilwoman Parker. Yes.
Sure. Yes, Nick, please respond.
Thank you. We have tried some surveys. As we know, we have already identified most of them don't have the digital capabilities.
Right.
So to really have the survey, you have to have the boots on the ground, and with the different languages, different people. So it's not as simple as you just sending out something and you're getting it back. And especially in the Asian community, you're not. The word Asian is not well known in the Asian itself. The Koreans think they're Koreans, the Indians think they're Indians. So there's a lot of things we need to be aware of, and the chamber is trying to do their best. Again, it's a big city. It's a big city, and the Asian population is scattered all over the place. But I think we will work with the corridor managers. I think that's the best way to really solve these issues, because some corridors have concentration of Asian businesses. Others have Asian businesses, but there's not that many. But we can, I have already contacted a few corridor managers, and we will continue to do that.
Thank you so very much, Nick. I want to thank all of you for your response. And Andy Toy, who you've been on the ground for a long time, Andy Toy. You referenced the eConsult study that was done about 10 years ago, laying out an investment strategy. And if the group is able, again, I'm talking about a group sort of independent of elected officials, obviously the Commerce Department and their staffers who work, the business development or services, that interact with commercial quarters, they would be engaged. But I'm telling you that I think if we were in the midst of this season where we are right now, when we're talking about equity and access to opportunity, if we were to get current data, that which we can compile to the best of our ability. Nick, keep it in mind exactly what you just said relative to those language barriers, and maybe some people may not have access to the technology. But I'm thinking about one of my constituents. I rely on her so much. Her name is Pearl. Pearl, and we work together in the Northeast, and Pearl is Asian, and Pearl works with us often in helping to communicate when we have those language barriers. So if you all could find a way to do that, particularly when you heard Vice Chair Dom, we talk about that we're trying to have a united voice in advocating for funding, asking for flexibility from the revenue we get from the feds, any help that we can get from the state. If we have that data to give to all 17 members, don't forget 10 of them are districts, knowing that very specifically this data comes from quarters and districts that they represent, I think that's pretty powerful. And I'm Vice Chairman Dom, I don't know what your thinking is about that, but I think if we had that information to help drive, in an effort to drive funding to commercial quarters, that would be a really good start for us headed into budget negotiations.
Thank you, Majority Leader. I think it's a good idea, and I want to thank this panel, Jennifer, Rob, Steve, Nick, and Stephanie. Thank you for your testimony. Are there any other questions from any of our colleagues for this panel? I have one question, not so much for this panel, but maybe for the panels also going forward. And I'd like to hear from the people testifying. What do you tell the business right now, like a restaurant that has no money, can't make the payroll, and they're going to close? That's what we're faced with right now. This is like a dire situation, and I see that all over the city. And so, other than money, I guess there's not much we can do. And I was thinking, sometimes I come up with some out of the box ideas, but some of these corridor people, maybe in some ways you can get together and lease the tents for these corridors, so that you can have these people be able to operate outside with the heaters because there are companies that do lease. You don't have to buy these things, and it's not that expensive to lease. But I'm just trying to think. I think we have to think out of the box for the next 2-3 months, because these businesses are going to suffer tremendously these next few months, and we have to really help them get over this. So, anyway, thank you for your testimony. And Mr. McMonagle, will you please call the next panel?
Thank you. Can we please have Solomé Osteen and Andy Toy, both of CMAC, Arama Olivencia of Hase, Shalimar Thomas of North Broad Renaissance, Amelia Price, Paul Desert CDC, and Alex Balloon of the Tacony CDC. And I apologize if I butchered anyone's names.
Thank you. Let's start with our first testimony. Is it Somali Osteen?
Yeah, we're together, Andy and Somali. Thank you. And you didn't butcher my name. Thank you. It's hard to butcher my name. Good afternoon, Honorable.
I've known you a long time, Andy.
Yeah, you still get it right, too. Good afternoon, Honorable Councilmen and women. Our names are Andy Toy. I'm the Community Development Director, and Somali Osteen, who's our Commercial Corridor Manager from CMAC. And we're an organization that works with immigrants, refugees, and marginalized communities, mainly in South Philadelphia. I want to first thank you for holding this important hearing, and thanks to our friends at PACDC and Beth McConnell as well, who's been working with us for years. We're grateful for your attention, your continued attention and support during these really tough times. The commercial corridor we manage is the 7th Street Commercial Corridor from Porter to McKean Street. And we have over 60 small businesses. All but one of the businesses is immigrant owned, which is really fascinating, and operated. This is one of the most diverse corridors in the city, with Cambodian, Vietnamese, Mexican, Honduran, Dominican, Lao, Pakistani, Korean, Burmese, Indonesian, Chinese business owners. The broader neighborhood is very diverse, with around 1/3 Asian, 1/3 white, 1/3 African American, and Latinx. However, the two main census tracts in the 7th Street corridor are 43% Asian. This is according to Policy Map. 23% Latino, Latinx, 22% white, 6% black, and 6% two or other or more races. And it's been changing over time. I just say the Asian American population is super diverse as well, as you can probably guess. And I want to let Somali take it from here to talk about our work on the corridor.
Good afternoon, council members. Thank you for allowing me to be here. My name is Somali Osteen, a commercial corridor along the South 7th Street in South Philadelphia area. I believe by now we all can agree that small business play critical roles in creating a vibrant community, a sense of safety, and economic opportunity. Being as an immigrant running a business, it's not easy, with very low regulation and difficult access to capital. As a Cambodian immigrant myself, I can understand how language limitation of business owner create many barriers. Lack of knowledge and technical skills make it even more harder to navigate important paperwork and grants application. And it is even more critical during the COVID-19 pandemic. CMAC has been able to help many of the South 7th Street businesses and the surrounding area apply for and receive over 170,000 grants as of right now, and we're expecting for more to come. We know that the CDC and nonprofit throughout the city are working very hard day and night to provide support and to these businesses. So for those small businesses, we are the world problem solver. We think the funding application should be a little more simple and geared towards smaller businesses. Some business owners do not have a technology nor understand how to use their devices to navigate the application. For example, one of our Honduran restaurant owner, Lucio, on corner of Jackson and 7, could not even understand how to scan or take a clear photo of his tax return in order to apply for grant. So we had to remotely walk him through step by step, take picture one by one of his tax return, send it over to our cell phone. We converted to PDF and applied for the grant from there. So normally 2-hour long application can take days for us to complete to help the business to receive this grant. We also see business who are renting the building facing more challenge to keep their business open during this time of uncertainty. So funding for property purchases is something to explore. CMAX also began a gift certificate program for participating business along the South 7th Street commercial corridor, and this program has been very successful. This is our way of getting funds to business during the closure, the shutdown, and also even now it's still going on. And our programs allow customers to buy the certificates online with a 50% match that CMAX provide with funding that we receive. And that all go to the business. For example, if you spend $20 to purchase the gift certificate, you will receive $30 certificate to shop at your convenience time. So far, we provide over 16,000 certificates and hope to sell more before Christmas. So if you wish to support those businesses, please visit our South 7th Street commercial, South 7th Street shops Facebook page. I'm sorry, there's a lot of S there. So. One more thing that we think that very important is that we believe that physical improvement play a profound effect on a commercial corridor. Despite the pandemic, we as CMAX and our partners have been working diligently to make sure the corridor is clean and safe. Recently, we just installed new decorative string light across the street along the corridor, which creating such a great positive impact along the corridor and help creating a greater sense of safety and welcoming. Although we got a lot more to do in 2021, such as welcoming banners, sidewalk and crosswalk painting, put down pilot trash can, and so on. And we cannot do this without your support. And I also want to say a special thanks to our Councilman Squilla. He has been a great support to our work, and we really appreciative of your effort and support throughout our work. And then Dee will take over and finish the testimony.
Thanks, Somali. I'll try and be quick. Somali, as you can see, she's our relationship person, and it's so important that you have those trusted relationships on the ground level. You can't just go in after something happens like this and say we're here to help you, because people are like, no, we're not interested. So having that built that over time, the silver lining in all this actually is that it's helping us to build even stronger relationships with the businesses. So those that survive, we're hoping all of them do, but those that do survive, we'll work much more closely with them to be able to make the improvements that we need on the corridor as a whole. Cleanliness and safety are still important during the pandemic. Fortunately, thanks to the Commerce Department and council support, Councilwoman Parker, thank you for leading that, and our Councilman Squilla. Our cleaning program is now 5 days per week, and it really makes a difference in the sense of safety and cleanliness on the corridor. And thank you for the Commerce Department support, of course, for that. Unfortunately, even with these improvements, we've still been having issues, and I'm sure others have, with safety. We have drug dealing and prostitution as a result of the opioid crisis. Just this past weekend, there were 2 shootings on the corridor we believe were related to the drug trade. We know the police are stretched, but foot patrols are important for everyone to see, and they build important relationships within the community. So we'd like to encourage that to be the case, more foot patrols. And your support is very important for that. Lighting and cameras are also part of that. In conclusion, we know that CDCs and other trusted organizations are important to the health of our neighborhood commercial corridors and businesses, and even more so during this difficult period. This is especially true for immigrant businesses, which are critical to our city and bring great diversity to our welcoming city. We know there is light at the end of this pandemic tunnel, but we need to survive to get there. We know there's corridor management work is even more critical now. And now is probably the best time to provide that last dose of support to both businesses and those of us who are key lifeline connectors for them. Our commitment is to continue to serve these small businesses and the community to move forward to recovery. And we can't do this without your support.
Thank you very much, Andy. And thank you very much, Somali, for your testimony today. Let's go to, is it Araima Olivencia from Hase?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So, my name is Iraima Olivencia. I'm the Business District Manager for HASE. I'm here to testify on Resolution 200665. My organization manages 3 commercial corridors. Centro de Oro, that is the 6th Street to 4th Street on Lehigh Avenue, and West Huntington Street to West Clifford Street on 5th Street. Front and Allegheny Commercial Corridor is runs Gurney Street to Westmoreland Street on Front Street, and Howard to 8th Street on West Allegheny Avenue. And the third one is American Street Commercial Corridor, that is North 4th Street to Hope on Lehigh Avenue and West Huntington to West Indiana Avenue on American Street. There are 349 shops, mostly small businesses with 2 to 5 employees, and 90% are Spanish language people. When we talk about business loss due to COVID-19, we have classified them as temporary and permanent closures. Our commercial corridor reflects 6% in temporary closing and 2% in permanent closing, which means a total loss of 8% of businesses. Before COVID-19, vacancies in our commercial corridors were 18%. After the pandemic began to reach our area and non-essential businesses closing began through the Philadelphia Department of Health Executive Order, vacancies increased to 25%. 7% more. We can still say that 75% of the businesses are operating in our 3 commercial corridors, but many of them are not at their maximum capacity like restaurants. They are the businesses that have been able to seek alternatives to provide online sales and services, pick-up or delivery products and food. The type of businesses most affected in the last 9 months by COVID-19 have been gyms, beauty salons, barbershops, child care centers, event decoration stores, nightclubs, and party halls. These businesses have been classified as a sum of non-essential businesses. Business owners have had to learn to operate their businesses under the Department of Health new guidelines. Each one has made the necessary adaptations to operate based on the reality that we live with the pandemic. Some examples of changes and adaptation that have been made have been keeping distances through marks on the floor of 6 feet between one and another, limiting the capacity of people within the business, installing clear glass, wearing the mask all the time, frequent sanitation, and washing hands. Since March, our organization has focused on helping business owners complete financial aid funds application for those affected by COVID-19 and civil unrest, achieving an economic injection of $222,700. Some of the financial aids were small business, like a commerce, small business relief fund, Leaks and Brayson Small Business Fund, early education grant, PPP, Citizens Bank Small Business Recovery Program, FedEx grant, PA 30-day funds, and others. One of our recommendations we want to make is to encourage organizations and the City of Philadelphia to submit future grant applications with more simplicity. Business owners have faced great challenges in completing the various grant applications since last March. Some challenges have been the language barrier and the loss of step numbers of the submitting process. Our fully bilingual staff has been a key tool to help translators follow-up emails and applications. Grant applications, such as those from CDFI, has been some of the most complicated to make. Some accountants charge up to $1,000 to complete these applications, creating new debt to be paid to business owners in this difficult financial situation. Faced with this situation, our organization has been of great value and help to our commercial corridor businesses. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And now I'd like to go to Shalimar Thomas from North Broad Renaissance.
Good morning or good afternoon, I'm sorry, to the members of the Committee of Commerce and Economic Development, and thank you for allowing me to testify on Resolution 200665. My name is Shalimar Thomas, and I'm the Executive Director for the Northborough Renaissance, the voluntary special service district that operates between City Hall and Germantown Avenue. That's 4 miles, 8 zip codes, 1,300 businesses, and more than 40,000 residents, with the majority African American community, with an average income of approximately $15,000, impacted by our efforts to support community vibrancy, provide employment opportunities, and help improve the overall quality of life. In addition, the NBR is part of the newly formed Philadelphia Bid Alliance, where we advocate on issues that include sanitation and working in partnership with municipal services to support cleaning efforts, safety, specifically working to create emergency response plans so corridors are able to quickly respond to emergencies, and business friendliness, working to create policies to support business attraction, development, and growth. Prior to the pandemic, the NBR worked towards becoming a business improvement district because we realized that there is a real need for enhancing municipal services that it receives and create equity along the corridor. That meant more police and safety services, more street cleaning, more marketing to help the corridor realize its economic potential, and strategic business retention and business attraction to not only bring businesses to the corridor, but help them grow. While none of us were prepared for what we were facing or are facing, I wondered if the corridor and the communities impacted would have been a little more prepared if only we were able to execute on the goals under the proposed business improvement district before 2020, especially the goals under public safety and police services. I think if there is a lesson that we can take from 2020, it would be looking at better practices that could help us prepare for economic recessions, because businesses who are better prepared and supported do fare better during those uncertain times. The resolution did a great job at citing the impact vibrant corridors have on communities and home values, and I'd like to share some additional data. A study conducted by the San Francisco Office of Economic and Workforce Development indicated that community benefit districts and business improvement districts were insulated from the effects of the 07 through 09 recession. In essence, their early work to create a strategy to revitalize and invigorate commercial corridors led to an $8 million increase from 2004 to 2012, even during the recession. Again, none of us could have imagined what we would face this year. And even with the efforts and support that we've seen to support our small businesses, I had one restaurant owner tell me that unless it received federal relief and funding, that it wouldn't be able to continue operating. It has been an unprecedented challenge fighting multiple battles at once: a virus, the economic fallout of the outbreak, and civil unrest. However, it is a time to look at lessons learned. And one of those lessons is indeed creating a more equitable plan as it relates to emergency responses, business attraction, and quality of life efforts. Thank you again for allowing me to testify.
Thank you, Cal. Thank you. Let's go to Amelia Price, I believe. Is Amelia here? Why don't we go to Alex Balloon next, and we can come back?
She's here, but she need to be unmuted.
Okay.
Can you hear me, Councilman?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Alex Balloon, and I'm the director of the Tacony Community Development Corporation in Northeast Philadelphia. I'm here to testify on Resolution 200665. My organization manages the Torresdale Avenue Commercial Corridor in Tacony. We have about 135 businesses we work directly with, and sometimes those in Wissinoming. The city support for organizations like ours is absolutely critical. The continued support has allowed us to build trust with our small businesses over time and achieve many successes. Some of these grant programs include the Targeted Corridor Management Program, the CDC Tax Credit Program, and the PHL TCB program. We are huge fans of that program, and it made a big difference. These programs directly support staff capacity and frontline services to assist our merchants. Two other programs, including the Storefront Improvement Program and the Business Security Camera Grant Program, directly support businesses. These simple and by comparison small programs are incredibly effective. We fixed up more than 34 storefronts in Tacony and installed around 150 cameras. I hope that City Council will continue to support these vital programs. Finally, for every dollar invested, we leverage $32. You would be hard-pressed to find any economic development program even close to that. And I want to thank Councilmember Heenan for his support of our organization. Thank you to the committee and Councilman Dom and Leader Parker. I just wanted to note to Councilman Dom, I love the restaurant idea. We actually did a competitive recoverable grant program pre-COVID for some of our local restaurants. They are indeed anchors. And we want more outdoor dining. That's something we would consider. Sadly, many of our restaurants have just opted to close either permanently or temporarily. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. I'm sad to hear that. Very sad. Thank you. Let's go to Amelia Price, call to serve CDC.
Great afternoon to everyone. Thank you for allowing me to testify. My name is Amelia Price, and I have worked for Call to Serve CDC for the past 6 years as the corridor manager for the Broad, Germantown, and Erie Commercial Corridor. Our office is located inside of the historical Zion Baptist Church. Our corridor encompasses the 3300 block through the 3700 block of Germantown Avenue, 1300 through the 1400 blocks of Erie Avenue, and the 3600 through 3700 Broad Street. There are approximately 70 businesses that are still active on the corridor. At one point, we had over 100. The damage done to properties as a result of the summer and fall unrest has had a negative impact. In that, I've had a couple of businesses advise me they have no choice but to close for good. At the same time, the resiliency of some of the businesses are to be both applauded and encouraged. We are humbled and moved by the outside support and generosity we receive for our merchants. On Saturday, October 24th, 2020, I was able to coordinate with the Glazers from local number 252 and the 25th Police District to bless 7 of our businesses on our corridor with the replacement of all new windows and glass doors at no cost to them. What also keeps me going? The resiliency of one of our newest entrepreneurs on the corridor, a young African-American male, Jamil Scurry, owner of La Ventures Boutique, whose business was looted not once, but twice. I am happy to tell you he is in the finishing stages of using the $35,000 that he raised via GoFundMe to restore his business yet again. The support we have received from the city has been tremendous and beneficial. It has helped me push the message constantly to our merchants that our city government officials really do care and to continue to hold on to hope. I have worked with the business to apply for various grants. I am happy to report 11 of our merchants did receive COVID-19 pandemic grants. Some of our merchants applied but were not able to for various reasons. Like many commercial corridors, we face the constant challenge of nuisance business and people loitering in front of the businesses, which in most cases leads to crime. We have a phenomenal relationship with the 25th and the 39th Police District, and I could not get half the work done without their help, especially the 25th. In reference to the crime on our corridor, Captain Rodriguez has shared the following statistics with me for the 25th for 2019 and 2020. I will only give you 2020. In 2020, there have been 9 shootings with 9 victims. 2 were homicides. In one of those shootings, there was little children in the nuisance business that we have been complaining about. This work has been hard and emotional, but it is still worth it. I want to be respectful of time, but I will only read one of my 3 short resolutions. I will only read one of my 3 short resolutions. I am asking City Council to pass a resolution to provide funding for the installation of high-resolution security cameras for the placement on top of businesses and tall buildings that provide sufficient coverage for the entire commercial corridors. I will end with what I always say to our merchants in all of my emails. When we work together, we will win together. Again, many thanks, City Council, for hearing our hearts.
Thank you very much, Amelia, for your testimony. Are there any questions or comments from anyone on the committee for this panel?
Councilmember Dom, this is...
Yeah, Squilla. I was about to say Squilla. I knew he came on earlier and taught to be recognized.
Thank you. I just want to say, as I'm listening through all this testimony, I really see the gut-wrenching things that are going on in these commercial parties and small businesses. It's been a challenge, I know, for them. I do believe we need to do better. We need to try to get some additional help to these folks. There's no way they're going to be able to make it through this till the summertime without additional resources. So we got to do everything we can to make that happen. And especially, I know I talked to Andy and Somali down on South 7th Street, and they have struggled. But through that struggle, they're still putting up lights and doing things and doing GoFundMe pages and get other people to help donate. And it's so exciting to see that the resilience of some of these groups. So it's, we need you. We need to work with you. We need to continue to make sure that your voice is heard and then carry that voice through not only council, but through the administration. So I want to thank you all who have testified and who are going to continue to testify moving forward, all the chambers. Madam Leader said that, this is just the first hearing. We'll leave these hearings to the call of the chair and the resolution to the sponsor, Councilmember Parker. And we'll continue to have these as we brainstorm and come up with ways to help our businesses. So know that we're listening and together we'll get through this. So thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Squilla. And Chairman Squilla, I'd like to turn this, if you're up for it, I'd like to turn this back to you, if that's okay.
Yes, Vice Chair. I'm happy to go through, and if there's any other questions, if there's not, I'll ask Mr. Milano to read the next group to testify.
Chairman Squilla, I would like to be recognized.
Sure, Madam Park.
I too just wanted to echo all of the comments made by Chairman Squilla, and wanted to say to Andy and Somali, thank you guys so much for your testimony. Especially because I listened to you echo what we heard from Beth along with Ann when you talked about acquisition and that local ownership, right? So the reason why the hearing is important, because you begin to see repetitive themes in each of the testimony. Amelia, you're the first, Amelia. I just have to say a special thank you to you on the record, because when we were working on building out the PHLTCB program, you, Johnny, on the spot got the importance of trying to connect local people who live near these corridors to do the work on those corridors, and what that $15 an hour could mean to those people. So I want to say a special thank you for that. I also want to ask you all a question. Alex, I rely on Alex. He's done a yeoman's job. Alex, you talked about the building of trust with the business owners. When I listened to you, Shalimar, you kept talking also as well, like about the return on investment when we make these investments into the corridors, particularly when it comes to security, talking about sort of like the patrols, like the neighborhood patrols. Obviously, this connects to when the police department comes in front of a council, and the reason why all of this is so important is because you all should be informing our efforts. And with that being said, from each of you, and you can give a simple yes, and I need to get this on the record as it relates to the Philadelphia Police Department. Do you think that our commercial corridors would give consumers a feeling of being safer and more secure if, in fact, we had patrols on corridors? And so, like, what's her name? When Karen says, listen, about 300, but really 80 Main Street corridors, would it say something to people if from a marketing perspective we said, these 80 corridors in the city of Philadelphia, the most highly traveled, they, all have, patrols that are geared towards them? Like, is that a tool that will help you all? Or like, no, Sherelle, that doesn't help? I mean, what do you think about that?
Councilwoman Parker, I'll say that when we were trying to implement the safety plan, we did a survey, and one of the top responses was bike patrol and having that presence on the corridor.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I would echo that too. A person sitting in a car is just not good enough, and there's no relationship built there. We have police that go by in a car, and like 5 minutes later, it's like business as usual. And one of the owners just said to us after the shooting this weekend, I never see them. They're not here, even though they are here, but they're going by. And somebody has $400 worth of damage to fix a door that got blown out. So,
Another point, if I could, Leader Parker, the other thing is, just like it takes corridor managers time to build trust, it also takes police officers time. When we have officers that are consistently cycled out, they don't get to know the community. They don't know what looks out of order. If they're just coming into a 911 call, they might not know if this person has mental illness. So, just like it takes time for corridor managers to get to know a community, it takes time for police to get to know a community. And true, community policing is building trust with the community. Thank you.
Yeah, I also would like to jump into that question too. Not just in terms of consumer perspective, it's also a resident and business owner. So having police present is all, it does make them feel safer and could attract more customer on the corridor. We understand that bike patrol probably a little bit harder in the winter for the officer, but having the car and then he walk out, just patrol up and down the corridor is very significant to the safety.
The finally last question for me, and I really do want to get this on. Somali, you talked about, and I was feeling very warm when I heard you say it, because sometimes I think people think I'm crazy, but because I saw the success of it when we were able to do it all at one time, it really changed the physical appearance. But now here we are 10 to 15 years after we made the improvements I'm going to reference, and slowly but surely it looks, it doesn't look as bad as it did before, but all of the improvements are gone. I'm going to walk through what you talked about. You mentioned physical improvements. You talked about those decorative string lights. You talk about the crosswalks, and those paintings. You mentioned the trust with the business owners. We talked about foot patrols, and then you mentioned the lights and cameras. Alex did too. I want you all to tell us, if you will, you know how different regions get physical makeovers. Again, I may be talking about a long shot here, but if we were able to, in a very significant way, figure out a city-wide strategy to brand commercial corridors, to invest in their aesthetic and physical appeal. I'm not talking about, full disclosure, guys, I hate what I see sometimes of these big yellow bright signs. To me, they reek of poverty. And when you see these big bright yellow signs on some corridors, to me, when people see them, I would never see them when I cross Cheltenham Avenue to go on Easton Road near the Keswick Theater. I use that as my model corridor, because the people where I live, they don't have to shop on our side. They can cross Cheltenham Avenue and go over to the Keswick. And as I drove through there, I said, isn't it interesting? None of these big, bright yellow signs, they don't have any of those over there. So if there was a strategic investment in the physical aesthetic appeal, some people are saying to me, Sherelle, you're talking about cosmetic stuff. That stuff doesn't matter, Sherelle. You're living in a dream world. I mean, for those of you, because you're on the ground doing the work, and Somali, you detailed it, so I'm sitting here like, I'm not crazy. She's saying it. It will help. What do you all think about that? An investment in the physical aesthetic appeal of commercial corridors across the city.
It definitely matters. And I would add also, not just that first part of implementation, but also the maintenance of it, and connect them to quality vendors who, and I'm just going to put this out there, who won't look at minority ran corridors and say that, you can give this type of service, not give us the quality that we deserve. And so connecting us to the vendors that appreciate the work that we're doing, that we're trying to do in our community, and also supporting with that maintenance piece of it.
Yeah,
I want to echo what Shalimar said. It has to be a comprehensive and sustained approach. You can't just sort of set it and forget it. And you need the organizations to commit to ongoing maintenance and problem solving.
Yeah, we totally agree with the idea of high quality design. We don't want a place that's going to look schlocky. It just gives people the wrong message. And I would point to Paul Levy and the Center City District. We kind of copy a lot of the high quality ideas that they come up with. Like pedestrian lighting is something we've been fighting for years on many commercial corridors. And it makes it safer because there's more light and it feels more like a walking corridor, not a car corridor. But signage and even like awnings, they should look good. They shouldn't look like crap.
Green space is really important.
Yeah, I just want to say a little bit that we all do a lot of crazy stuff, but it works. It's very impactful. But throughout our design process, we always our principle is to always engage community to share their ideas and share the concept. Even this crosswalk design that I mentioned, it should be done before Christmas. Although with the COVID, we cannot get permit from street department to close the street to do community paint day. So we have to postpone it to next year. But we got over 30 businesses and residents sitting at the place, speaking more than 5 languages, can bring their own fabric pattern from their own home just to input like what they want to see the crosswalk painting design to be. And it sounds crazy. It sounds like it's not important, but it's very important. Lighting, it creates a sense of safety. But it does take time to help business to understand this, to understand that this a little thing put together make a difference. And in terms of bright red, bright yellow sign, we just need to work with the business a little bit because business, they want it to stand out. They want this one building on our corridor that blue, like really blue, and that is their son's favorite colors. You have to just work with them to give them idea, to give them input, what kind of design that work, what kind of design that look good along the corridor and attract more customers. So just like we said earlier, we have a lot of rules. We're a designer, we are advocator, we connector, so we do a lot of things.
May I make a comment? If I would challenge all of City Council, if you could take a ride over to Haddonfield, New Jersey and look at the business district there, particularly on Kings Highway, I would love to have that look all across the city.
Yeah, that is a special look. I know Sherelle's muted there, but I think she was agreeing. It's a neat look. It's engaging. It's entertaining. It makes you want to go to that corner.
Exactly.
And
No, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I haven't seen it, Mr. Chairman. I haven't seen it, so you think you said it. Is it something worthy where we can all get in a van maybe and go take a tour of it?
Yeah, especially at nighttime, yes.
At nighttime especially, you will love it.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, can we work together to put something like that together for council? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just want Andy and Shalimar, along with Alex, to know, and I know Chairman Squilla paid attention to this. When I was in Harrisburg, and I was so super excited about bringing the resources home to make the improvements. At this time, we were focused on Wadsworth Avenue. It didn't have a CDC. It didn't have anyone responsible for doing the work like you all. We were able to work with John Unger. John Unger came, and we formed a group called MARC. We did crosswork Somalia. We did pedestrian lighting. We got in the SIP program. We did some cameras. And I was like walking around super proud. We even had Christmas designs up. But guess what we didn't build into it? The money for the maintenance. The money for the maintenance. Because when I was no longer there with access to the pot of money to get to the organization so that they could maintain it, the organization went out of business because government, you can't have you need to diversify your revenue, right? Your income streams, and government was the main source of revenue keeping the organization going. And without access to those dollars, the organization died. And so we never got a chance to maintain it. So it's like all of the improvements that we made, I feel like they're all gone now because we've seen them dwindle because of a lack of maintenance. So thank you all. And we've built maintenance into whatever we're able to come up with. So I appreciate your testimony.
Thank you all. I don't see any other questions in the chat.
All right.
Ms. McMonigal, do you want to read the names of the next people to testify?
Our next panel will consist of Jesse Blitzstein from the Enterprise Center, Paul Levy from the Center City District, Jim Burnett from West Philadelphia Financial Services, Rachel Vicidi from Philadelphia LISC, and Kevin Williams from Black Squirrel.
Thank you. If you want to go about that order, just state your name for the record and then proceed with your testimony. We'll try to hold questions until everybody's on testifying. Please proceed.
All right, I guess I'm up. So Jesse Blitzstein with the Enterprise Center.
Yes, Jeff.
Good afternoon, or maybe I should say good evening at this point. But again, my name is Jesse Blitzstein, Director of Community Development at the Enterprise Center, where I help lead our work on the 52nd Street Commercial Corridor. Thank you for listening to me speak, and thank you for your support during the dual crises of the pandemic and the civil unrest. Not sure if any of them are here anymore, but special thank you to Councilmember Gauthier and her staff for all that they've done in the 3rd District. I'm sorry that Della Clark could not join us this afternoon, but you know the sense of urgency and action she brings to a crisis, and that she would implore you to seize the moment to muster new resources in response to the present challenges. As you know, 52nd Street has been in the news a lot because of the civil unrest events this summer and fall. While these events, combined with the pandemic, have posed tremendous challenges for our corridor and community, I'm here to share with you the tremendous resiliency of our small businesses, the hard work of our staff, and the need for continued support from the city. Most of our small businesses are still hanging on. Of the small businesses that were looted or damaged, the vast majority reopened quickly, and those hit hardest plan to reopen after rebuilding. We are tremendously impressed by their resiliency, as well as the support of community members in the form of volunteerism, donations, and business patronage. Our staff has been amazing as well. To date, on 52nd Street, we have connected 47 business owners and street vendors to more than $650,000 in relief funds. We opened a satellite office near 52nd and Market to offer in-person services to businesses and community members. We supported local artists in public art projects to convey hope and beauty during these challenging times. And we returned to and expanded our corridor cleaning efforts. This work would not be possible without city funding for corridor management, cleaning, and the CDC tax credit program. We thank you for that and implore you to see that it remains in the upcoming budgets. For years now, these sources have served as integral backbone funds for our community work that we leverage to raise additional federal, state, and philanthropic dollars for project planning and implementation. As an organization that focuses on minority entrepreneurship and access to capital, we have been uniquely positioned to help our corridor businesses and provide feedback on relief efforts. The pandemic economy has highlighted the historic gaps in access to capital for minority-owned businesses and lower-income communities. Our neighborhood-based micro-enterprises have largely struggled to connect to relief funding such as PPP or even the first round of city grant-making early in the pandemic. We've seen the most success when application processes have been kept simple, our relationships with business owners and funders have been leveraged, and very hands-on support to business owners was provided, as some of my peers outlined earlier. The best examples of this were the state grant program, for which we were a CDFI intermediary, and the city-backed civil unrest relief managed by the Merchants Fund. If future rounds of small business relief funding are to come through, we strongly encourage use of a similar model. While our micro enterprises are resilient, many have struggled with the capacity, sophistication, and technology skills needed to apply for relief funds. The more that funding can be simple and flexible, and the more that trusted intermediaries like us can be involved in the process, the more funds can be accessed by these businesses. While most of our small businesses have been quick to reopen because their livelihood is at stake, the same has not been true for some of our chain retailers who have been hit hard by the civil unrest. While these businesses are not a primary focus for organizations like us, they are important to our corridors as employers, as drivers of foot traffic, and as tenants of larger spaces. I would implore both Council and the Chamber of Commerce to help us connect with these retailers and work towards successful reopening as well as improved corporate social responsibility. So in conclusion, 2020 has been tremendously challenging, and we are definitely concerned that some businesses will not be able to hang on much longer. But we are also encouraged by the newfound spotlight on social justice and equity. At the Enterprise Center and on 52nd Street, we see opportunity and innovation amassing in response to the challenges and the strife. We ask the City Council think big in the face of these challenges and help us seize the moment to change the dynamics of access to capital and neighborhood redevelopment in Philadelphia. Thank you so much for your time. Stay safe and happy holidays. That's the end of my written remarks. I just want to quickly echo sentiments expressed earlier about building acquisition and building up the tools for that in particular, and look forward to continuing those conversations with you all down the line.
Thank you for your testimony. We can hold all questions until the panel is complete. I think who was next? I don't know if it was Paul Levy.
Yeah, it's me. I'd asked if I could actually show slides. Could somebody give me control of the screen? Is that doable technically or not?
Modesto, is it possible to have Paul share his screen?
I think that's the case.
Yes, you do have access. Share your screen.
Great. I'll do this very, very quickly. I thought I would offer some broader city trend numbers about what's going on and then talk about lessons from Center City. But let me say the obvious here, that is listening
Paul,
to all this.
Just say your name real quick.
I'm sorry. I apologize. This is Paul Levy, President of the Center City District, and I'm pleased to offer testimony on Council Resolution 200-665. And Councilman Squilla and Councilwoman Parker, thank you very much for this opportunity. To me, listening here today, I heard 3 or 4 obvious takeaways. 1, that clean and safe matters more than ever on commercial corridors. 2, we need to be investing in streetscape improvements, lighting and landscaping. 3, that we need clearly to have more funding for economic development, more funding in the Commerce Department, and more support for small business and neighborhood corridors, as well as for acquisition and for the building of local entrepreneurs. That seems to me a top priority coming out. Did to us. After 11 years of growth, we lost 76,000 jobs in 2 months. Almost all of that job loss, if you can see here, is highly concentrated in accommodations, hotel, food services, and restaurants. That's where the pain has been greatest. While we're in a process of regaining jobs at this point, we are still 62,000 jobs citywide below where we were in February, and we're actually seem to be plateauing at this point, and these numbers come before the latest stay-at-home orders. Unemployment spiked way up to 18%. It's down, but you can see we're higher than the national and regional average. The office sector, which is so essential to the downtown, rents have held up, vacancies have gone up slightly, but the real challenge here, and this is where Center City is somewhat different in the challenges it faces, is the actual number of people in office buildings is no more than 5 to 10%. And until there's a vaccine widely available and people know that schedule, people are not coming back to work. People expect that to be in the spring, and I want to talk about that in a moment. But the other part of the crisis for us, of course, is that hotel occupancy plummeted down almost to zero. Conventions have been canceled. International travel has been canceled. And so hotel revenues are at 27% of same time last year. You can see these trends on SEPTA ridership dropping dramatically and just barely recovering. And even in parking coming into the downtown, we're only at 42% of where we were before. We have pedestrian counters on the street. digital cameras. And what you can see is that huge plummeting of volumes that occurred in March, a slow building back up into September, October, but we're now actually seeing those volumes taper down with the latest stay-at-home orders. What's most interesting is on our prime retail streets, Chestnut and Walnut Street, we're at 54% and 60% of pre-pandemic levels. But you go to the office district and we're at 23%. The office workers, the administrative workers in hospitals and universities are simply not here. That has huge implication. In our neighborhood corridors, there's one challenge. In the downtown, the challenge is 70% of day in and day out demand is not there at this moment. So the sooner we can safely return to work in person, the faster the retail and restaurant sectors can recover. We do a lot of surveying. I want to talk about how we might share this with neighborhoods because, first of all, let's just be clear, we lost 100,000 jobs citywide in the restaurant sector. That's a 39% job loss since April. Now, the Office of Transportation and Infrastructure and the Commerce Department have been great partners in supporting street closures across the entire city. We've worked to help with merchants to close streets, to get outdoor seating. That's been a huge lifeline across Center City, throughout the city. We're promoting those restaurants, and you can see the effects of recovery. Between July and September, outdoor seating went from about 3,000 up to 5,000. Center City-wide, it was up to 9,500. Boarded up premises, which were 276 in Center City, went down to 56. And then with the shooting of Walter Wallace, the fears of election unrest, we went back up to 116. But contrary to a lot of false impression, we're down to 27 boarded up premises in the downtown. That's 1.6% of all premises. Most people are reopening, but clearly we're at vacancy rate of about 11.5%. But the ban on indoor in restaurants and limits in retail is hugely challenging. Many people talked about this. Weatherization for outdoor seating is a key survival strategy. These things are expensive, and the fact that they're keeping restaurants alive, a survey we did last week found 70% of restaurants on 13th Street and Rittenhouse Square area were open with outdoor seating, and a lot of questions about whether we can make this permanent. A lot of small businesses outside the downtown could use direct grants to purchase outdoor weather protection. This is a right now, today problem, a January and February problem. When we look at numbers for the downtown, or for citywide, the most interesting thing is that retail has largely recovered job gains, even though it shifted to big box and away from our commercial corridors. But restaurant and food service is still 28% below where it was pre-pandemic. So I would end here that the most helpful thing we could get from the city and from the health department is a preliminary schedule on vaccine distribution. Once we know that, we don't know it with certainty, but when people know those vaccines, whether it's 3 months, 4 months, that will give the certainty for people to feel comfortable to come back to work. I think restaurants in particular citywide need direct financial assistance to survive this winter. As I said before, increased funding for the Commerce Department overall, economic development and neighborhood corridors, sorry for my typo there. But what's really clear is many other cities are investing much more in their neighborhoods and economic development than Philadelphia. I can say very simply that CCD, because of the downtown businesses, we can afford to keep 148 people working doing cleaning and safety services. But I think the city should step up the funding. Councilwoman Parker, the program you had for neighborhood cleaning, that needs to be taken up 2 or 3 more notches. Clean and safe is essential to the vitality of our corridors. So thank you for that opportunity to talk through those. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Levy, and thank you for sharing that information. And I know we have a couple more people to testify, and then we can have questions if possible. Someone, can you read who's next?
I think it's me, Jim Burnett.
All right, Jim. Yeah, please proceed and say your name and then proceed with your testimony.
Sure. I'm Jim Burnett, Executive Director of West Philadelphia Financial Services Institution. Good afternoon to the committee, Councilman Spilla, Parker, and Dom. Thank you for allowing me to testify today on Resolution 200665. Philadelphia commercial corridors have been devastated by the COVID-19 pandemic and vandalism in the aftermath of George Floyd. The initial impact of the closing of small businesses from closure of businesses was how do I survive? Many businesses lacked the cash reserve to carry them for more than a few weeks. As such, it began to cut perceived unnecessary expenses, including insurance. Unfortunately, for those that did not carry insurance, those that did, they stopped paying on policies, and vandalism of early June and October put their businesses in a tailspin. Fortunately for some businesses, relief was available through SBA's PPP and EIDL programs. Unfortunately for our businesses along our commercial corridor, these dollars were not available. They did not have banking relationships or the infrastructure in order to process these types of applications. The City of Philadelphia's Commerce Department, PIDC, the Philadelphia Foundation, the PA CDFI network, and other government and philanthropic organizations began to fill the gaps. Business associations, business support service providers like Temple SBDC and the Business Center and CDCs provided corridor-based business assistance in completing applications. This portion of the small business ecosystem is strong in Philadelphia and provides the foundation for delivery of recovery services. For the COVID-19 Relief Small Business PA Business Assistance Program, almost 10,000 businesses with less than 25 employees, 1 million in sales applied for over $180 million. We were able to fund $40 million through Pennsylvania CARES dollars, and this month we'll fund an additional $30 million with CARES dollars from the City of Philadelphia. This will leave about 7,000 businesses unfunded. The good news is that many businesses have leveraged their relationships with business and trade associations to help lobby for additional support. A group of 180 barbershop and salon owners created the PA Image Alliance and helped members complete applications, identify resources, and lobby politicians. We are working with them directly to identify additional sources of capital outside of your traditional sources, such as going to the government for support. The devastation from the vandalism in June and October impacted many of Philadelphia's commercial corridors. Our shopping center along 52nd Street was devastated. Many of the stores closed for more than 90 days. For the small business owners along 52nd Street, the impact was much worse, though. The Enterprise Center, West Philadelphia Corridor Collaborative, the 30-Day Fund, and other agencies provided support, but there was not enough collaborative effort. Now, with the latest surge there will be a greater need for additional collaboration like the PA Image Alliance, the PA CDFI Network, the Chamber of Commerce of Greater Philadelphia, and the African American Chamber, the Asian American Chamber. More dollars are needed from federal, state, and local governments, but the city cannot do it alone. I'm proud to have been a part of the Chamber's Recharge and Recovery Planning Initiative. Collaborations will bring together more dollars and more resources from beyond city's borders, and the city and its partners must work together to focus on resources directly to the corridors. I say that in response to the question of do aesthetics matter? Yes, aesthetics matter. We need to be positioning our commercial corridors so that they can invite customers to come and share and purchase goods and services along those corridors. But if they don't look in the right condition, regardless of your invitation, people won't show up. Thank you very much.
I think, Kevin, were you next? Oh, no. Sean, you're there. Who was next, Sean?
Yes, can we have Rachel Vicity, please?
Hi.
Yeah, Rachel, just state your name for the record and then proceed with your testimony.
Great. Hello, I am Rachel Vicity. I am the Assistant Program Officer for Economic Development at LISC Philadelphia. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on Resolution 200665. West Philadelphia provides financial and technical support to 13 commercial corridors from West Philadelphia to Olney. We work closely with our colleagues at PACDC, the Commerce Department, and of course CDCs. As communities began responding to the pandemic, we did as well. By January 2021, LISC will have granted $1 million to local small businesses. We relied on corridor managers to help small businesses access those funds, and corridor managers look to us to provide platforms for mutual learning and support. I'd like to share 3 key takeaways from this experience. Number 1, the businesses that are most crucial to communities face the most barriers when it comes to accessing funding and other resources. Barriers relating to culture, language, and technology. Number 2, a strong network of strong CDCs allowed us to overcome these barriers. You've just heard about all of the great work that corridor managers do. I can personally speak to their dedication and their resourcefulness. Commercial corridor programs provide merchants with a community that helps them to be more resilient. And number 3, if we are going to recover in a way that ensures inclusive growth, the city and CDCs need to work together to develop a long-term strategy for corridors. Corridor managers have the local knowledge of and relationships in their local economies. They are a critical conduit for information that policymakers need to make informed decisions. We need to make sure that CDCs can continue to do this crucial work. We will need public support for corridor programs and city programs like TCB and SIP. And we will need to reduce barriers and strengthen networks to ensure that small businesses can access available resources. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Can we please have Kevin Williams, please?
Thank you. My name's Kevin Williams, and I'm with the Black Squirrel Collective here in Philadelphia. And I want to first give you a little bit more of an idea of why Black Squirrel Collective even exists. It exists for the very things that we're all talking about here today. We all see and know what these problems are, but what happens is sometimes the solutions require the collaboration of different arms, whether it's the government, private industry, foundations, the businesses, on and on. And so what Black Squirrel is designed to do is to be that nexus point, that place where we can bring all the pieces of the solution together so that we can come up with the best solution. So, as I said, my name is Kevin Williams, and I'm not going to start off by repeating a lot of the same things that other people have talked about. Everybody here has given great testimony to what the problems are. And our problems aren't new, and they're not solely due to the pandemic or the looting that's taken place recently. A lot of these incidences just made it worse. But because the corridors have been neglected for so long, the solution is going to require more of an investment to right the ship. It'd be nice if we were able to start chipping away at things, but the situation's become dire. It's going to really require financial investment. It's going to require a great strategic investment in order to really get things where they need to be. As I see it, the solutions for our corridors are going to require what we're going to call a stackable solution with a short, mid, and long-term long-range strategy. And it'll need to be implemented by all of the parties that I just mentioned. It's going to have to include the city. It's going to have to include private industry. It's going to include foundations, and it's going to include the businesses themselves. So part of the solution is going to be that the businesses do have to invest in themselves. But it also means that they need the resources and tools that can be given to them by the other organizations from the city, private industry, and foundations. So as we look at it now, the short-term solutions really is where the financial aspects come in. And you know what? I have to hand it to the city and the state. A lot of money has been poured into the small businesses and in an effort to help them to stay afloat and hoping that things change. But nothing has changed. And the reality is, as in most cases, when there's a shortage of money, that's when you realize where your real problems are. And so now we see what the problems are. We need to address them. Just putting money into it to kick the can down the road is not going to work. But the money is what's going to be needed now just to keep some of these businesses afloat. Unfortunately, some of the funds that were given were misused, and many didn't expect for the problem to last this long. But we can still invest in these companies. They are still vital to the growth and the strength of this city. Part of what we're looking at for a midterm solution is going to require infrastructure rebuild. Some of the things that Jim had mentioned earlier in terms of some of the businesses not even qualifying for any type of support is because they didn't have the proper financial infrastructure to be able to report what was needed. A lot of the things that are going to be needed, and this is where a lot of small businesses especially have continued to operate without a real technology backbone. I don't think most of the businesses can see themselves moving forward and actually growing in the future without technology as a part of it. And we need to make sure that everybody has a plan and strategy. We talk about a plan and strategy on the city level. We need to talk about a more of a detailed strategy. And it'd be great if it could come from some of the corridor managers where they have their playbook and say, okay, when these type of problems exist, these are the solutions that the businesses need to be aware of in order to resolve some of the problems. And it's to make sure that people can be more, you don't have to be reactive, you can be proactive. And so some technology, having a strategy, and really looking at the financial structure of these companies and along the corridor absolutely will help. And it will then give us an opportunity to start looking at some of the aesthetics and start doing more of a build on the aesthetics. So as Jim pointed out, you can make this more appealing. And a lot of these corridors, just as people have pointed out, whether it's Haddonfield or whether it's on Chestnut, in Chestnut Hill, they are destination points. And we have some great destination points along some of these corridors. We just have to revitalize them. We have to help them rebuild and grow. As we look at what the long-term solution needs to be, this is where we actually understand why these corridors exist. They exist to serve the community that that surrounds them. And once the corridors are more healthy and they can actually support themselves, then they're better able to support the community. And the community in turn will support these businesses. We have to look at this as the ecosystem of not just the corridors, but the whole community and neighborhood that surrounds it. There is a way for that to be self-sustaining, but we just have to give it the core sources and resources that they need in order to grow. We talked about an assessment. Councilwoman talked about an assessment of the corridors. Absolutely, that's one of the things that we focus on at Black Squirrel. An assessment of the corridor is needed, but an assessment of each business is needed. There's no such thing as a cookie cutter solution. What works for Lancaster Avenue is not going to necessarily be the proper solution for 63rd Street or 5th Street or 7th Street. So we need to understand exactly what the different cultures are in each of these corridors, look specifically on what the problems and gaps are in each of these different corridors, and then start addressing the needs and also look at what kind of strategy, a long-term strategy, that's not going to just give them the money to make it through this year or through this pandemic, but that's going to help them to rebuild and then to grow and be more sustainable for the community that they're supposed to serve. I want to thank you guys very much for giving me a chance to speak today. And I hope what I said today is actually going to help us to come to a solution.
Kevin, thank you for your testimony. Sean, is there anybody else on this panel?
Not on this panel. We're ready to go to the next panel.
Councilmember Parker, you had a couple questions.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly say, Mr. Chairman, thank you to each of you for participating. Jim Burnett, you were the answer. You and other members of the CDFI networks, you were our answer when we were learning that our small business owners weren't banked. right? Very much like many low-wage workers, in neighborhoods across the city of Philadelphia who aren't banked, right? They go to check cashing places to take care of their banking. And so we want you to know that in this city council, we've been strong advocates of advocating for CDFIs to have a significant role. I mean, we wrote to the feds, we mentioned it, to the state, and obviously our Commerce Department has been communicating with that network. So we want to say a special thank you to you for that. And I also want to thank you for affirming that, yes, aesthetic appeal does matter. It's only when you get to certain communities that all of a sudden, I've had some people, and Chairman Squill, I won't say it out loud, but they say, well, Sherelle, you just always talking about that pretty stuff. You just want things to look a certain way. And I'm saying, yeah, because it does send a message that when you look across the street, it's nice, it's bright, it's lit, it looks appealing, it's green, it's trees, it's decorated. And then I come down my block, around the corner from my house, and it's none of that. So thank you for acknowledging that does matter. Paul Levy, want you to, if you can, Paul, can you put that slide back up again where you showed the weatherization, if you're still on? I just wanted to see it because I wanted to state, and I know this is important to Chairman Squilla, and Chairman Squilla, you guys, I know you've been having some intense discussions about this, but that's my German Shepherd puppy. I'm sorry, he's playing with that thing. The outdoor seating, Chairman Squilla, I want to advocate on the record that even when indoor dining is allowed, because we're resilient. Vaccine is going to come. We're going to get it out. We're going to survive. But even when the regs are, because we're going to get this under wraps. When the regs are relaxed and people are allowed to go back indoors, for me personally, I would rather have indoor dining and outdoor dining so that restaurants, if they have the ability, I want them to make up as much as they possibly can to double the capacity. So I don't even to get through the now. Again, we start talking about, what we, with Council President's leadership, Chairman Squilla, you remember we were talking about the new normal. I think this whole outdoor dining piece should become a part of our new normal. The way we do things here in the city of Philadelphia, to think, outside the box. And Chairman, if Paul isn't on it, he can't do that. Chairman Squilla, if the committee would be able to get that information.
I'm actually on now. If you can you see it now? Do you see the image?
Oh, I don't, Paul. It looked like a bubble. I don't.
Yeah. I mean, can you see this image?
I can't. You shared your screen before. It popped up. We could all see it. I can't see it now.
All right. Well, I'll be glad to share those. The glass enclosed one's obviously expensive, but those plastic bubbles are easily had in the $300 to $400 range. So it's not a small amount of money, but it would be easy grants to provide those.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Again, Council Member Dom, Chairman Squilla, because your districts and you're in Center City more than I am. Maybe those plastic circles. That's the first time I had ever seen them before, Paul. So if you could get that emailed over to us, Chairman Squilla, I may not have some of the big time Center City steak restaurants in the 9th District, but I've got David Sims from Eatable Delights, who's down on Wadsworth Avenue, and he needs outdoor seating. So maybe that's something, that could help him. So I would really like to do that, Paul.
Yeah, no, I'll be glad to share that. We'll get you pricing for him, too. I just wanted to send you the picture. I wanted to get you the pricing and suppliers, too.
That's great, too, because we agree with that. And knowing that, this benefits also not just the bigger restaurants. We've seen some of the littler restaurants be able to provide some of these. And sometimes if you could have 5 or 6 additional tables, it could really make or break whether you stay alive or not.
Well, the other thing that we're going to start doing that we want to sort of do citywide is just push everyone in January, February, just buy takeout and go to the website or directly. Don't go through the intermediaries. Buy takeout. You want us to keep jobs alive, do takeout in January and February. Because I'm not sure I'm going to sit in one of those on a 15-degree night, but I'll do takeout.
Okay. No, that's good, Paul. The last thing I want you to just get on the record for us, and again, you heard Jim Burnett affirm it as well, and you affirmed it in your testimony. When we're jumping up and down about aesthetic appeal, again, people start saying you just want things to look pretty. Paul, I want you to talk about what aesthetic appeal means to your customer base in Center City, and how it would impact corridors across the city if they had access to it.
Well, I mean, you sort of alluded to it when you talked about the suburbs. It's not just simply the commercial corridors. Everybody's gotten accustomed to drive into suburban shopping centers, which are climate controlled, in which a ton of money is spent on lighting, on amenities inside. That's what the customer expects. Now, we all want to patronize our local commercial corridors, but they've got to look appealing. People want to go there. They need to feel good about being there. And there's a clear evidence that when you make those investments, it increases the revenue to businesses on those corridors. This is about choice when we have many choices. And I said this before, you could buy online too, or you could go to a real place. To go to a real place, you want to be attracted there by amenities, by investment in lighting, landscaping, all the things that make for successful corridors.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for your testimony.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks for the opportunity.
I want to thank Jim, Kevin, Rachel, and Jesse, and everybody who testified, because hearing what your concerns are important enough to know how we could end up working together with the administration and really with the businesses. The businesses know what they can and cannot do. They're the ones who should be telling us, and we should be helping them. We're not the pros in this business industry, so we really need your input. And by you providing that, it's a big help to us. So thank you all for your testimony. Mr. McMonigle, can you please read the next panel?
Sure. Can we please have Tiffany Easley?
Hi. For some reason, I cannot get my camera to work. I apologize. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
Hi, how are you? My name is Tiffany. I'm Tiffany Ward now. I'm sorry. I'm Tiffany Ward. I am the owner of NV My Eyewear. I am located on the 52nd Street corridor. We have now been open for 4 years this January 1st, 2021. We are a full-service optical retail store that focuses on underserved communities and our surrounding area. We focus on what helps the community. We currently, when we first opened, we had, before pre-pandemic, we had about 7 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees. Post-pandemic or after the pandemic, we are now down to 1 location and 4 full-time and 2 part-time employees. Primarily because some of our employees didn't want to come back because they just had children and they were afraid of contracting anything and taking it back home. And secondly, because of the civil unrest that happened, around the 52nd Street corridor, we also employ optometrists to work in our office. And because they're not necessarily from this neighborhood or maybe understand the culture, they did not want to necessarily come back. So, it was hard trying to get employees it was hard to reopen at full capacity with the services, with full services for our staff. And I heard a lot of the panel talk about the aesthetics of these corridors, and I would have to agree 100% with how things look and how customers or potential customers portray these corridors, because I have a lot of my customers say when they come here or they find out that I'm on the 52nd Street corridor and they come to my store, I hear a lot of them say, I would have never guessed you were here, or I would have never guessed that the store looked like this, based off of the other businesses that surround my particular block. And I heard a lot of talk about the importance of actually owning the building that a lot of these businesses are in. And I would agree. I have tried to talk to the owner of my building, or the property management, about maybe potentially selling the building to me since I occupy it. And I do want to be on 52nd Street for the long hold. So actually having some services that would be able to actually help businesses like mine try to acquire the buildings that they're in would be awesome. And basically, because there are a lot of minority businesses, not just Asian and Indian businesses that are on my corridor, I found it very interesting during the times of COVID and the unrest when there were grants and loans available, because I have befriended them and we talk and we've built a rapport. It was very hard for them to understand how to fill out those applications. So, I took it upon myself for some of them to make sure I opened my offices so they could use my computers, or I could kind of explain what these grants were or who they should get in contact with. Because I, post everything, before everything happened, I kind of built rapport with people at the Enterprise Center and the Merchant Fund and PDIC. And I was able to get a lot of the things that I applied for. I was able to get some grants and I was able to get the PPP. Although even with the PPP, I did not get my full 100% of what my payroll was. I got about 35% of what my payroll was, because going off of their calculator, because I do have some 1099s that work for me. My doctors are all 1099s. So I was only able to get a little bit of the PPP, which helped because my employees also weren't able to apply for the unemployment, because unemployment was bombarded with so many other people waiting for the unemployment. So the PPP did help. A lot of the grants the small grants that we got from the Merchant Fund and PDIC, that did help. But what do I do now when we face with another potential closure? My employees now are afraid to come to work full time or work close with the customer. We're not just retail, we're also health. So, we have a specialty type business. We have to work closely with these customers. And I think grants help, and they've helped me. But what do we do now after you've received the grant? What other type of technical assistance or programs is out there to help us actually open safely, understand where we are with even trying to apply for loans, for long-term loans. And to be honest, I don't believe that. I'm afraid, I should say, to apply for a loan, because I'm like, am I going to be open in the next 6 months? Where's this pandemic going? So I guess just not knowing the unknown is what kind of scares myself and a lot of businesses around me. Thank you.
Tiffany, thank you for your testimony. And I know Councilmember Dom had said too how important it is to know what the future holds. Where are we going? How will the vaccines roll out? How long do we believe it would take to inoculate as many people as possible in order to get people back to work? So those things that we could work with our health department on. Also, are there going to be requirements? If you get vaccinated, are you going to get a card that says you're vaccinated, and therefore you go into places and that everybody in there is vaccinated? I'm not sure how that's going to play out, but that's something that council needs to work closely with the health department, because I think knowing ahead of time and the timeline, even if it changes and alters a little bit, if you have an idea, I think it eases people's mind and they know what they could work toward in order to get prepared for how we will address these issues in the future. So thank you so much for your testimony. Mr. McGonigal, is there anyone else here to testify?
Yes, can we please have Peter Watts?
Peter, are you available and connected?
Mr. Watts had to leave, sorry.
Okay. Can we jump to Justin Lee, please?
Justin, are you available? And I apologize, this has been a long hearing, but it's very important to hear everybody's input. And we know some people aren't able to stay with us the whole time, but if you want to submit your testimony in writing, we will add it to the record if you weren't able to say it in public.
Can we please have Idalia Aiden?
Adelia's here. I see her. She's not sure if she's needs to unmute. Adelia, can you hear us?
I don't see her yet.
It still says muted on the screen, and
Okay.
maybe we can go back to Adelia.
We'll try going ahead. Can we please have Vinaya Fote from Catherine's Cake Salon? Okay, I'm just getting a message in the chat. It looks like she may have had to have gone as well.
Okay.
And how about, can we have Fran Cassidy from the Sporting Club?
This is Fran Cassidy. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes, Fran. Yeah, just state your name, Fran, again for the record, and then proceed with your testimony. Thank you for hanging in there and holding on. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. I appreciate everything you're doing. My name is Fran Cassidy. I'm the general manager of the Sporting Club at the Bellevue. As I listen to all the business owners and council, I just have to say with a little bit of compassion and empathy, we feel your pain, and Councilman Dom, Councilman Squilla, you know how much you've helped us and all the other council members. So I'll be brief, knowing that I guess I'm the last one to go, so we should move along. We've been in business here at the Sporting Club for 32 years. I've managed or overseen the management of it for all that time. Currently, we've been closed for 6 months out of the 12 months in 2020. So those devastations are obvious, and I won't go through all the details. We employ 94 people, 43 of which are full-time. I can't name names, but many of them support their families. So this has been a very, very difficult time for them. We have kept them on health benefits just because, it's the business we want. We believe that health and fitness centers are essential as a grocery store, maybe not as fire, first responders, and hospitals, but we're essential for the many reasons: physical, mental, emotional, and social health for people to come. So we want to be open. We will do everything to stay open. The devastation, actually, from the math we had in general numbers, in a year we pay approximately $1 million in city wage tax from our employees. We also, in addition to that, pay significant use and occupancy tax. So we all get hurt when it comes to this city and our employees and our business. We certainly understand the health risks of having a business be open. We've taken every directive to stay safe. We respect Dr. Farley, the mayor, the council for everything they've done, and we continue to want their support. Our members have always been compliant. Our members are very vocal. They appreciate the city and commerce and economics. They know it well, and basically, without being totally, negative on anything, it's just been a really, really rough year for businesses. I hear corridors. I hear the word corridors, which is a little unique, but I can speak extensively for Broad Street from City Hall down to Washington Avenue, and it's sad to see, that we would have to board up the beautiful Bellevue Hotel, 124 years old, because windows were broken in Tiffany's and spray paint and all the other negativities. And then you walk down Walnut Street up to Rittenhouse Square, and it's just sad to see some gorgeous companies and retailers, big ones like Nordstrom and small little ones like restaurants on Sampson Street, many of which are of these business owners are our members. So, in summary, we're all in it together. We suffered, but we stay optimistic, because that's the one thing that fitness and health will do for you. And we, again, have empathy for all the business owners and certainly appreciate and thank everything council has done. We have confidence in you, and we support you 100%. So thank you for your time.
Well, Fran, thank you for your testimony. Much appreciated. And we know the devastation in the gym market and what's going on there. And we also appreciate the efforts that the gyms have put in when they were open to really pay attention to limit the spread in those facilities as they were open and following all proper guidelines and procedures. So we appreciate that strongly, and we'll continue to work with you as we move forward. So thank you very much. Mr. McMonagle, I see Adelia is back.
Adelia?
Just say your name for the record and then begin with your testimony.
Go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Idalia Don. I am the business owner for Beyond the Seams. We are located on Broad and Parish Street. I'd like to take a moment to thank you all for your time and your hard work to allow us to have this opportunity to speak on our issues. I will say that we've been open for 2 years. We're just starting our 3rd year now. During the onset of the pandemic, we did close for a couple of months because at that time everything was very strict and everyone was shut down. And initially, our business, to go back a bit, our business is a event space, creative space / beyond embroidery and screen printing services. So before coronavirus, we did art shows, and we all supported local artists and music artists. So we would have art gallery showings for the local Philadelphia artists. We would have music shows, music sessions for local musicians that are like just within the neighborhood, within Francisville and Fairmount. But because of that, we had to close everything down. And once the onset of the pandemic came, we canceled all our events. A lot of our screen printing and embroidery orders were canceled too because they were associated with some other events and because of, a domino effect. So there was a lot of monetary impact there, as well as our community impact in regards to the events. Currently, we have been able to reopen with the guidelines, face masks, social distancing. We're not hosting any events anymore. In fact, we've adapted our business to separate the front of our store where the boutique is located, where we sell local merchandise, locally made merchandise, and then the back, which is where our workshop is. We're a pretty small space, so I don't think we can afford to offer any events with social distancing, because even with social, like face masks, we're too close knit. So we just kind of cut those off entirely. So we lost that community engagement on that side. However, we are still producing in regards to embroidery and screen print services. So that has really enabled us to continue in regards to, like, we made face masks and stuff like that for our community, and we were not designated as somebody that had to close. One of the questions is that I wanted to touch is, have we been able to access any of the grants and loans made available by the city? And for as many other business owners have encountered, we've been denied for all of them. Honestly, I think we've been just too small. We're just 2 years old, and it's just my husband and I. So we don't have employees. It's just him and I. And so it's been really helpful with the Fairmount CDC, the North Broad Renaissance, and the Merchants Fund. Those have been significant contributors to our sustainability. We wouldn't be here today. And sometimes I get emotional talking about it, because honestly, we wouldn't be open today without the help of Sarah Jane and Jordan Rogers, as well as Shalimar from the North Broad Renaissance. We appreciate them deeply and giving us the information that we need to apply to these grants that we didn't know existed otherwise. The condition of North Broad Street in regards to the corridor, I liked a lot what Councilwoman Parker was saying, as well as Jennifer Rodriguez, like that attractiveness. It seems a little superficial, but when it comes to engaging or enticing shoppers, I look at it as, like, if the place looks nice, people will want to be a part of it. So I think that's a really great, and I really look forward to all the work that you guys will be doing for that. Broad and Parish is not a very popular neighborhood for shopping or for customers to want to come walk through, honestly, for the past 4 years. But now with the creation of the Met and the other locations like the Divine Lorraine and other rehabilitation projects are really bringing more people in. My husband and I have lived here for over 5 years. We've owned the business for only 2, and we're really seeing with the new developments, new people coming. So I think with the focus on maintaining the attractiveness as well as the safety that was also spoken about is very important to incentivizing consumers to come here to sustain our businesses. I think I wanted to talk about specifically, which I appreciate, and it's probably due to North Broad Renaissance as well. The specific corner on Broad and Parish is a lot of accidents. It's very frequented by car accidents. In fact, the first 4 days before we opened our store for the big opening, a car crashed into the building. And luckily the building was okay. The worst that came from it is that we had to replace our front door. But other than that, no serious injuries and everything was okay. But not up until recently, in fact, 3 days ago, there was a major car accident again, even though there were a green arrow light put up for traffic to turn on Parish Street left. But there was a really bad car accident, and a car even smashed into Uhuru furniture store right next to us. So I know that the green arrow was instituted there, but I would like to see some signage perhaps to let drivers know that there is a green arrow to wait for. And another person mentioned perhaps some poles. I don't know if it's going to look as pretty or how we can make it not look so industrial, but maybe some street poles to block the stores. But luckily Uhuru has their furniture out, so there was like some cushion there. And the street cleaning, I really, really do appreciate North Broad Renaissance street cleaning crew that comes through Broad Street. It's helped significantly within the last few years with the trash. And there was a moment I saw, they were coming frequently down this part of Broad Street. I've seen some absence, but I understand that there's coronavirus, and so there's so much that's going on. But that's just a part of the work that you guys do that means a lot to us as businesses here. And then I wanted to touch base on, again, I just wanted to talk about, again, the significance of the grants that I got from Fairmount CDC. Without them, I wouldn't have gotten the other grant from the Merchants Fund. And being denied all the time, over and over again, by the larger programs, these really helped because they're the boots on the ground that you guys mentioned. They're the ones who are talking to us every day directly. And we need those types of people that are coming to us because we don't know where to go necessarily. And then I think that's everything I wanted to talk on. But other than that, I really appreciate being here, and I really appreciate hearing all the work that you guys want to do. I wanted to just recommend one thing that if anyone wanted to talk to me about, just hearing a lot about how you want to kind of streamline an idea or solutions for businesses within neighborhoods. My sister and I we came up with an idea about trying to provide a web page that works like Amazon or Grubhub.
Maybe it'll
that
make my headache better.
No, it doesn't at all.
Sorry. Yeah, so like a website that kind of streamlines local businesses together that work like Amazon, so that we incentivize consumers locally to purchase locally. So I would love to share her proposal with you guys. There's a lot of work that still needs to get done because there's a lot of conflicts and challenges with that. But from we've talked about with local businesses, they're really interested in finding or creating a platform where local consumers can find them through the neighborhoods. Like it could be neighborhood by neighborhood. But that's just one idea that I was coming across with my sister. If anyone wants to have any questions about it. Thank you for your time again.
Julia, yes, thank you for your testimony. And yes, we can use as many ideas out there as possible. So feel free to either send them to the sponsor, Councilmember Parker, or myself, the chair of the committee. no idea will go unused at this time. We could use all the help we could get. And I
Thank
do,
you,
it
Mr.
seems like
Chairman.
more. Go ahead,
I'm sorry.
go ahead,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry. No, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say too, and is it Adelia? Did I say it right?
Idalia, like the letter E.
Idalia, I wanted to say thank you. My team just sent me a note to say they weren't sure if you were the business screen print their TCB uniforms. Did your business?
That's us. Yeah.
That's y'all. But I just wanted to say thank you. That's all. Thank you very much.
No, honestly, I want to say thank them because, again, it's a domino effect. If it wasn't for Sarah Jane reaching out to us and helping us and then using us to give us business, like, it's very, very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Idalia. And again, when you mentioned too, the invitability of the Carter is so important. People want to feel like they're welcome there and they want to be invited down that block. And we heard that over and over and over again, no matter whether it's a big commercial Carter or a small Carter. If it looks nice, people will come there. So that's something that we heard loud and clear. So thank you, Sean. I think Ms. Fote is...
We do. We have Vinaya Fote, I understand, is back on the line.
Yes, sir. Hi. How are you?
Hey, just say your name again for the record and then begin with your testimony.
Yes, my name is Vinaya Fote. I'm part owner of Catherine's Cake Salon, which happens to be our opening day today. So I'm really happy that we're able.
Congratulations! What
Thank
time
you.
to open up?
Yeah, right. And we opened at the most inopportune time, but we had a lot of support. I want to first start off with thanking Celine Wilson from the Department of Commerce, and also Sherelle Parker and her associates in her office. They have been incredibly helpful in this time. As a business owner, as a new business owner, you all are always faced with challenges in and of itself. But with a global pandemic going on, it was a lot more challenges that we had to endure to get our doors open. From contractors not being able to work, the city shut down, and resources being limited and not being able to have full capacity at the municipal offices because of the pandemic. So it kind of almost jeopardized our business before we even opened. And having some of these programs and having a contact person, like I said, Celine Wilson was a contact person and allowed us to get information and resources that we weren't privy to. Sometimes as a woman, we are overlooked and unheard. And we had an opportunity to talk to Sherelle Parker's office, and they actually heard and listened to our concerns and things that we want to develop in the community as well, and just partner with them to not only beautify, but to strengthen and grow the community. So what I really appreciate is not only the resources, but actually making sure that we had the right information, and also to have a follow-up. Celine was able to, after we open, what else do you need? What does it look like? When will you have another opportunity to do something else? What are your future plans? So it really, really was a great experience. I know that some of the downfalls because of the pandemic was no grant funding for our business because it wasn't necessarily open yet, but we still had a mortgage, we still had to pay bills, and we still struggled greatly. And that was a disadvantage that I felt was unequal. We didn't have equality in that area because we did not have the funding opposed to someone who did have employees. So I think what would help is to get access to this capital for women and minorities so that we have the opportunity to thrive in any community, and especially where I am now in this neighborhood. We are a growing neighborhood, and we're probably the second bakery in the community right now. So that is, I see Sherelle Parker dancing, but yeah, we're excited about that and excited about extending book reading programs and all different types of things that we have lined up that we would love to work with the city with. But again, it takes. I do believe that alone you can do little, but with together we can do so much. So if the city can partner with us and we have the resources, and not only that, but building a community for business owners where we have a Facebook where if I don't get the information, maybe somebody else has it because they talk to a city official. So that's some of the things that I would love to see because I know you guys are working hard and you're doing a great job, but these are some of the things that maybe we can utilize for the future to keep us well connected and so that we're all heard and that we can work together to make the community grow and to strengthen. I want to thank you guys for your time and your help and your resources. You guys are amazing. And if there are any questions that you have, please let me know.
Chairman Squilla, if I may, I just want to, Mr. Chairman, say just a super special thank you. The only reason why I didn't get by today is I was getting prepared for this. You all know that we would not have still been here. We were supposed to start at 1 o'clock. We were delayed an entire hour. We want you to know it happens in government sometimes, but we thank you so much for staying. And thank you for mentioning the importance of Celine Wilson, helping you navigate government, right? During this difficult time, departments closed, you need to get to people. So that's what we were talking about when you heard Council Member Dom and Council Chairman Squilla and Councilman Green all talk about the importance of making sure that Commerce Department is funded. If they don't get the appropriate funding, there is no Celine Wilson there, or a Karen Fegley or Yvonne Boyd who's doing the valuable work on the ground to make sure businesses like you get what they need. So when you hear, Councilman Squilla, myself, and our colleagues raising Cain about funding for commerce, and Councilwoman Catherine Gilmore Richardson, I see that she's here. That's why. So we're going to stay in touch with you, and Chairman Squilla and Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson. I do want you to know that she's on the mighty Washington Lane in the mighty 9th Councilmatic District. Just for the record. So thank you so much for opening. We appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Parker. Appreciate that. And everybody who stayed on. I put in the chat and thanking everybody for really hanging in there. I think Mr. Lee is still on. I think he wanted to testify. And Mr. McMonagle, is there anybody else besides Mr. Lee?
Hello, do you hear me?
That should be it, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
This is Councilmember Gilmore Richardson. I just wanted to also offer my congratulations on the opening of Catherine's Bakery, spelled with a C, for the record, in the mighty 9th Councilmatic District and on the Washington Lane corridor. And I too plan to support your business as well. But I just wanted to congratulate you for your perseverance, for working through the challenges that are presented as you start a business in the middle of a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. So I just wanted to offer my congratulations as well. And I saw some of the photos on social media already with the balloons outside of your awning. I thought everything was gorgeous. So congratulations to you, and I look forward to supporting you. Thank you, Councilmember Parker, and your staff for working with her and all the businesses on your corridors, and for your laser beam focus on your corridors in the 9th Council District. I had an opportunity to review the information that was posted in the chat earlier in the hearing. So thank you so much, Chairman Squilla, Majority Leader Parker, and to everyone on the call for really helping us understand what you're facing right now. We are looking forward to continuing to support you in the days ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Member Gilmore Richardson. I appreciate your input there. And it is great to hear that there are businesses still opening during these trying times. So a lot of credit goes out to you. Mr. Lee, if you're there, if you just want to state your name for the record and then proceed with your testimony.
Yeah, do you hear me? Do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you fine.
Okay.
Yes, say your name and
hello.
proceed.
Yeah, hello. My name is Justin Lee, and I'm the owner of Fun Rock Hardware. I'm here to testify on Resolution 200665. Fun Rock Hardware is located at 5957 North 5th Street in Albany. It was established in 1929, and I became the third owner when I purchased the business in 2015. I chose North 5th Street because I had lived in the area and previously owned Tommy's Diner, also on North 5th Street. I felt comfortable here. Most people told me not to get involved in the hardware business because it would be too hard to compete with Home Depot and Lowe's. But I know that I could do it because I would offer goods and customer services that the big chain stores do not. When the pandemic began, my wife wanted me to close the store, but the neighbors needed a place to buy masks, latex gloves, and sanitizer things. So we stayed open. EIDL and PPP loans helped me stay open, and I got a grant from the Merchant Fund. I want to thank the North 5th Street Revitalization Project for all their help. They share useful information, always respond to my questions and needs, host seasonal events, and help keep 5th Street clean. This is so important to the merchants and customers. If the city could do one thing to make things better for my business, it would be to provide low or no interest loans. Working capital would help me buy more merchandise, fix the front of my store, and put up a new sign. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Lee, thank you so much for testifying, and we appreciate your input and tenacity to really care about your community. And that's one thing we could say about our small businesses in our neighborhoods, that they are part of the community. They are the community, and we work together. People who live there and work there, it's so important to have that cohesion. And you're a pure example of doing that. I know, Councilmember Parker, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just very briefly, Mr. Chairman, to Justin Lee, I want to say a special thank you to you. You know, Chairman Squilla and Council members Brooks and Gilmore Richardson, didn't you feel a little bit of his Philly come out of him when he said people thought that I couldn't compete with Home Depot and Lowe's, but he said I knew that I could offer the customer service that they didn't offer. So that spirit, Mr. Lee, Justin Lee, that's who we are in Philadelphia. And we heard that Merchants Fund from, I must probably about 5 or 10 people on here talking about how helpful that Merchants Fund has been. We heard from you low or no interest loans and obviously grants, and again, aesthetic appeal. So again, the council members, Brooks, Richardson, and Chairman Squilla, when we start raising these issues about improving these quarters, the blocks, the physical appearance, the storefront improvement programs along with cameras and lights. And then when we talk about a police presence, walking on corridors, when we talk about these things, people should not say that we're just talking about aesthetic appeal. It's not us thinking we know what's best for the business owners. They were here today to tell us what's best for them. And so I appreciate that. And again, Mr. Chairman, I want to say to you, to Dom, and to all members of the committee, it's 5:43. Again, if we were on schedule, it would be 4:44 instead of 5:44, but you hung in there. And I want to say a special thank you to each of you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And that would actually be all the testifying. Is there anyone else out there that would like to testify or last comments before we end the hearing? Hearing none. I want to thank all the panels and the witnesses for their participation today as we value your opinions. This concludes the business before the committee on the Commerce and Economic Development today. And we want to know that this resolution 200665 will be held to the call of the chair and the sponsor for future hearings on this topic. Thank you all very much for your attention and attendance. Have a great day.